All right. I mean, I thought we was gonna go about this a little differently, but it's cool. It's don't nobody go over there talking shit.
Yeah. So we're gonna like for real though. We're gonna be kind in the chat. I'm not about to have any content I put out. I've tried reacting to stuff before, and I always vault it because I don't like how this feels. Right? I don't like making direct dunk content. But this was something I thought was really important to respond to because it's indicative of a challenge. I think, Cullum, are you in there? It's indicative of a challenge that I think we haven't engaged with a lot, which is like directly like engaging with the moderate take.
Yeah. Also, Aronach, that's the one you gotta throw Monier today. You gotta let that motherfucker fly.
And so I know people that will watch this and be like, yeah, I agree with everything. And then I'll have to like, and I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna jump them, right? I'm gonna be like, all right, let me explain to you all the things that are wrong with what you just presented. And I'm gonna try to do it in a way that is not cathartic for me as a person, dunking on somebody's bad takes, but just hoping that a person gets it, right? And I feel like more people are like what we get from this video than your typical chud, your typical alt-right, goofball, etc. And so they can get all the smoke, that. But like, I want it for this to be like, all right, if we were not online and this is like a group get together, if somebody came out with these takes, we all sitting in the living room, you know what I'm saying? And somebody had these takes, I want to respond with the energy I would have in a private setting versus as a content drama.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So you're saying I gotta like rub my nose and let out a sigh first.
Yes.
And then respond.
Bring it down a little bit. Let me introduce people that just came in. Color Mine. Let me hide. Can I just
that no clap?
All right, we're gonna do that for a second. So just make sure everybody gets a chance to say what's up. Lua, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hey everyone, I'm Lua. I have a channel called Professor Flowers, and I was very interested in this video, and I'm interested in talking about it tonight.
Indeed.
I'm trying to use your advice and take as if the person was here. I'm very interested.
All right, let me breathe. Let me breathe because I'm being messy.
Color Mine. I understand why. I don't want to. I
don't want to discredit the group, so to speak. I'm just go on, Negro. Go on and say what you got to say.
We're gonna get through this. We're gonna get through this.
We're gonna breathe. We're gonna breathe.
Hey, my name is Tayo. I run a show on YouTube called Color Mind, which is a place where I talk about things that I've thought about so other people can think about them too, usually relating around money, media, or mental health around Black men. And I'm the person who showed. Yes, this is my doing because I saw this video.
Yeah, you did this shit, didn't you?
And it made me feel very conflicted because for reasons that I think we're going to get to, it does feel like I know this person. I know how these arguments are formulated, and maybe it is time for us to start talking about how can we directly address what pushes people either away from the left or closer to the middle of the left,
to the middle, to the liberal. Yeah. So to kind of give some background. Oh, and Bellamy, I guess you was in here laughing, but just go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right, my name y'all just call me Bellamy for now. I'm playing with name changes as is par for the course for me every 6 months. But I make content. I stream a lot more than I actually upload videos. But I just finished writing a video. Aronach read it, and I'm going to be filming that soon. So it's coming out. We're working on it. We're getting there. I'm also a PhD student at Temple University in the Geography and Urban Studies department, and to give you an idea of what I study would be impossible in enough time. So we're just gonna let that shit ride.
Indeed. Okay, so to give some background, this is Kidology. Kidology is a Black queer British woman who makes content. I think everybody on here has watched her content genuinely at some point in time.
There was a couple of videos I seen from her. I was like, all right, cool. She's talking about her shit. I'm like, all right, whatever. And then a couple of
I think all of us at a certain point started to hear, and I don't know if it's fair being charitable. I don't want to call them dog whistles at this point, because when you're not aware that things are dog whistles, that's how they work. They're the status quo angles on certain issues. And so I think all of us recognize there's some takes in here that sound familiar and sound really close to
let me get my notes up.
Certain right-wing nomenclature. But I think all of us still watch because Kidology. What's funny, one of the things I said is that she's very good. She's very talented. If she wanted, I think she's very genuine, because she could easily pick a side and be at 500,000 subscribers right now.
Oh no, these are her beliefs for sure. This ain't she ain't fronting. This ain't no lie. This what she think, and there's problems with it, but it's different. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like you say, you talking to somebody. This is the middle of the road, mainstream. Probably how most folks think.
Right.
The inconsistencies are almost more genuine or more earnest, I feel like.
Yeah, they're earnest for sure. I don't think she's a liar, and I don't think she's a grifter. I wouldn't even compare her. And it was one of the videos she made before. People was comparing her to Candace Owens, and I think that's an unfair comparison.
No, that was low key racist.
That was racist, low key, nigga. That was racist as a motherfucker.
Just a motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? And so I watched that video, right? I disagree with parts of it. Yeah, but I watched it, and I never felt the need to I'm not a respond video type of person. When I'm at least in my better self. Sometimes, boy, I ain't been on Twitter in 2 days, and it's going well. But this video hit so clear a mark that I was like, this will be an excellent opportunity to engage. So this is a video called "Kindly Do Better," which is basically her prescription on why the left isn't in this bag right now. And that end statement, that end point, I don't know if it's so wrong, especially the online left. Hell, I was making a video a lot like this video that I just changed up. That I don't know if it's going to be the same thing when it hits, but we agree on that. I think we all on the panel agree on that. The online left has some major problems.
I mean, it ain't even just online left. It's online because it happens in person, so it's the same shit to me.
It's also very true. But her reasoning why and how she arrived at some of her points was just so illustrative of some other issues that I just wanted to talk about it. So we got some timestamps, and I didn't pull them up yet. But I wanted to start at the beginning.
I ain't put enough of them in there either. So
yeah, I wanted to start from the beginning, because at the very beginning, it's kind of evident what really what the whole video is about. If I'm real, in the first couple minutes, we're gonna skip the intro. We're gonna skip. Let's see.
Micro issue.
Yeah, we're gonna skip the part one, the current
My
situation.
bad. Nah. I see you woman. You got me cracking up. She typed it.
Best behavior in the chat.
Nah. She ain't do nothing. It's just that she said that, and it made me laugh because the take was so ridiculous. I couldn't tolerate it.
All right, so can y'all hear?
Am I filming this video on Christmas Day? 1,000% yes. There is no rest for the wicked. I was rather sad to read a few.
No, just because I know that's proper etiquette for streaming, right?
A few days ago that a columnist who I follow quite regularly, who writes for The Guardian, Hadley Friedman, has resigned. Hadley Friedman is a columnist. She's a writer, an author, and also a journalist of American-British descent. She's been writing for The Guardian for well over 22 years, and I've been reading her since she wrote purely about fashion, and then moved on to writing.
Captions too, please.
Oh, yes.
Those captions. Some of us got ADD.
My bad.
More about social and political issues. I was pretty surprised to hear that she had resigned, because she is sort of the creme de la creme of The Guardian and everything that it tends to stand for. An appreciation of identity politics, of diversity, of our changing world, an appreciation for progress, criticism of elites, as well as feminism, particularly third wave. I guess in a way we could say that we're heading toward fourth wave feminism. And she writes incredibly well. Even though I don't agree with her on a lot of things, I still can appreciate that she is an exceptional journalist. And so
it's coming.
Her resignation that I heard on Woman's Hour was truly shocking.
You are saying that you specifically were not allowed to write about this. Are you saying others were and you weren't?
No, I was specifically not allowed. I was specifically told by a reprimanded.
Trigger warning for transphobia.
2018, 2019, I think. And others weren't either. I know of multiple reporters who asked if they could interview, for example, Maya Forstater during her case, Alison Bailey, Jess DeWalls. I asked about interviewing J.K. Rowling and Martina Navratilova, and we were all told no. Meanwhile, you know, the
All right. I don't really have to go. I feel like y'all heard the dog. So there. And
it's set up in an interesting way though, right?
Right.
Because like she comes into it, and when she plays the quote, is like, oh, they won't let me interview gender critical folk, but you already know about The Guardian, you already have this sort of connotation, and in that you either have two ways to look at it, right? If you kind of know the dog whistle, you're like, well, being gender critical really tends to lean to like, why, in what capacity would you want to interview a gender critical person in which the Guardian would be like, no, right? Like if you know that dog
Guardian
whistle,
of all places,
right?
The
like
Guardian.
you're gonna know that answer. But if you don't think that way because you haven't been exposed to it, you're like, huh? Well, I learned you're supposed to let both sides speak. It's crazy that my beloved Guardian isn't gonna let the what seems like to them a black and white suppression of what they only hear, right? That's even a great term they use, gender critical, against like, you know, people that are pro-trans people.
Right.
She also calls it gender realist too. Like when she later on in the video, if you play a few seconds more, she says that they're called gender critical, and she's like, I like to say gender realist. That's what she says.
Yeah,
it was pretty. It was.
Baby,
I was like, why won't they let you write these articles? I wonder why. And then you clip it. It's like, oh, that makes sense.
So this is the fundamental frustration I think I have with most of this whole video, right? And I'm glad that we got to it here because then we just talk about it. When you're trying to do things like not even necessarily like be an anti-fascist or do anti-fascism, right? When you're just trying to resist all of the various bigotries that there are, which I would argue is anti-fascism, but I just want to make sure there's a distinction between that specific thing and what I'm talking about. It requires you to oppose those things, right? It's not about like, oh, we need to hear them out. We need to hear them out. Like, no, like that ideology. I mean, you could argue that it's literally just fascism, but they overlap with fascists enough that the line is not them. Like, no, you don't polite fascism out of existence.
Right. It's not a debate.
Nah, you suppress that shit. You fight that. That's how this works.
Yeah. And she characterizes it throughout the video, and you all will see, we're not going to watch the whole video, but she characterizes it as laziness from the left and how we just kind of dismiss these perspectives that we have not, and this is not like shit we made up, right? This is the medical science here in the West. This is a good generation of sociological, psychological study. This is not like, you know, I know people have issues, I don't know, xenopronouns, which is a new manifestation that I'm perfectly fine with, by the way. I just want to be clear. But it's not like something that's just like brand new. It's just brand new to people who are moderates, to people who are status quo, who are invested in the status quo.
To the hegemon.
To the hegemon, right. And is there something to packaging that messaging more efficiently? Sure. But it's very insidious to present this both sides perspective of I left the Guardian because they wouldn't let me interview certain people.
Like, who are those? I left the Guardian because they wouldn't let me be more transphobic than the Guardian is so willing to tolerate. That's what the fuck you just said to me.
Yeah. And one thing I want to be critical of is that we, especially in the video essayist sphere, we're analytical, we're analyzers. And what we will do, because that's how we're trained, is extrapolate significant things and meaning from maybe small, maybe tenuously connected pieces, right? But this isn't that. And I just want to be clear. I'm going to try to make the distinction between moments when we extrapolate and moments where I think it's very loud. So Kidology was very clear. She admires this woman. She loves the Guardian.
I mean,
and then she played this particular clip. You know,
that's what I'm saying. Like what you like whatever. We talk about that later. But gender critical feminism or gender realism, like that's so many people have already taken that apart that we're kind of to the point where it's not an ideology that we debate with,
right?
Because it's either just fascism or it's right next to fascism. If you just look at who the people who espouse this ideology associate with, it gives you clues about what the ideology actually is.
I want to pull up an article that I came across. I don't remember which. I'm just going to show you the let me see. Just real quick. Y'all know I'm slow, so it's never real quick with me.
Okay, now what? Let me
some more transphobia. So let me just hold on. Let me real quick. So we're going to be getting. There's going to be a lot of transphobia and trans like antagonistic dog whistles, dog alarms. Just so like as we continue, understand that is a huge undercurrent of this video, right? There's also going to be some anti-blackness. What else we got that's like trigger worthy?
Let's see.
General trigger warning for bigotry and shit that's probably going to piss you to fuck off.
Yeah, general liberalism. Yeah.
General liberalism.
General liberalism.
Right. So if you're
Bellamy, you have like a slight echo on your. You have like a slight echo on your microphone. So when you laugh, it's like
you sounded like
I kind of love it.
All right, so back
to that's for film and stuff. My bad, I fixed it.
Back to where we at. So this is one of the women mentioned in that commentary. This is the article that she wrote for the Guardian. And so you know, trans women shouldn't call themselves real women. And it's like the thing that makes, so I think Rawlink in particular, and you know, feel free to correct me because I not my joint, but Rawlink in particular has really crossed over in a way that there's like no denial at this point. We've kind of broken that down and explained that to such a degree where it's not even just a matter of gender critical, if that was ever really a thing, versus she just really hates this. This is outright bigotry. Versus like if I asked, I don't know, one of my aunts about trans women, this would be something they would say, which is still transphobic, but there's an explanation to have here. But if you're presenting an argument about people not being transphobic, something like this should not be a part of the question. Does that make sense?
I mean, for real.
If you can't get with pronouns in 2023, that's transphobic. Like we won that one. Y'all got we won that one, right?
Right, and like the insinuation that like that's something we have to go back and fight for every time is like kind of the annoying or like frustrating thing is, right? Like I feel like a lot of this type of moderate talk is like, well, you need to meet people where they're at, and I'm like, listen, like I feel like we are like the standard of where we're at has gone to a point where I can't fight with you on pronouns anymore, and it should be I don't know if this is wild to say. I don't like good social etiquette to wile on a person who doesn't understand pronouns, but like that level, you know, like if nothing at this point, we've gone all the other tools. If we got to use social shame to do it, let's talk about that.
And also, like, I don't think every single person, like, you know, like just in the way of like being Black and being queer, where it's like I am politicized, like just who I am is politicized. And I don't always want to have to fight that battle. Like I shouldn't always be put in a position where if someone doesn't get it, I have to explain that to them in every single instance. Like I value my own human autonomy. I only have so much time in this world. And I'm constantly figuring out, do I want to try to kindly explain from this person, or do I want to like protect my own mental health right now and just not engage with this right now? Like I don't owe it to the world to have to always be a politicized figure in explaining my humanity to people. And even though I don't owe that to people, I do that all the time anyways. So like, you know, when people are just like, when people talk about how like with like the left and like having to like explain things, it's like, I think that is what we're doing. And also on an individual level, we have to figure out like, do we want to fight this battle in this exact moment? Maybe not in this exact moment, but we are constantly fighting this battle because of just who we are. For a lot of us on the left, being a lot of people with marginalized statuses are on the left because we're sick and tired of always having to fight this fight. And that's why we're on the left for a lot of us people.
Right. And she makes the claim early on, I skipped it, but she makes the statement she wants the left to win. And
do she?
I think she does in her conceptualization of what the left is, which is essentially she speaks on neoliberalism. But like I don't know. It really is, it's confusing.
You know what it is to me, right? It's the sort of like, to just use a word like liberalism, right? You're trying to get to comfortable. You feel me? Like you ain't trying to push the limit. You're trying to get to like, all right, well, I'm cool. I'm feeling all right. And I don't feel too bad about how things are happening. Like it's not in my face. You know what I'm saying? Like I ain't got to look at it. I ain't got to think about it. So it don't fuck with me like that. That's what this is giving.
Yeah.
I mean, she even starts the beginning and says like, I'm like not a leftist, but I have advice for the left. Like she's very supportive of the left movement, but she cannot bring herself to call herself a leftist because, and I guess that ends up being what the video's about. And I feel like it's that, this is that sort of detachedness, like this is y'all problem. Because I actually don't feel like the current world's actually pretty fine, except for these macro problems. Meanwhile, y'all
micro problems.
It's what Kalama. It's what I feel like what MLK's letters from Birmingham jail. About the wet water.
Yes, exactly. Right. That moderates are the ones that are gonna kill us all, right? Because they are the ones who don't want any motion at all.
In one of the boy John, not John Green, is fucked up. It is John Green. When he was in Break Bread, that I thought was a really useful statement for like moderates and normies to hear, is he was like, when he hears other white people talk about racism, they're talking about fixing racism. And he tells them, and he says they say it to speak to kind of what Bellamy was just saying. It's not that they really want to address racism. They just want to get to a point where they don't have to think about it anymore, where it doesn't bother them anymore, where they don't have to worry about it. And so I think for a lot of liberals, the trans people are a thing they would rather just not think about or bother with. Like it's too hard for them to engage with the deconstruction of gender and sex and identity that is kind of incumbent with transness, and which means they have to challenge so many other things in their personal day-to-day to be just, it's easier to just be like, you know what, we're just y'all stick there. Just you go over there. We don't have to worry about y'all. When like whatever laws come out against y'all, it is what it is. And we're gonna get this, I don't know, free healthcare and electric cars and shit. And like I think that's what she's on. I think that's what a lot of moderates are on.
Yeah, so, and I don't even know if she realized that she owned that, because she do this thing where she's trying to like give everybody the time of day. You know what I mean? And I feel like it just kind of ends up in that same sort of space, even if that's not the motivation to get there necessarily. You know, you
Yeah,
do
I
this
also
thing
think-
where you're like, all right, I gotta listen to all sides. Go ahead, Lou. My bad.
No, there was a pause. I was like, oh, like you wrapped up your thought, and I totally interrupted you. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you good. Go ahead. I'm good.
Okay. I think she like has said in videos that she's apolitical, and to me, like her views sound moderate, but just out of like respect of like what she would describe, like maybe just saying like I feel like she has moderate views rather than like saying she is one, since she wouldn't describe herself as that. I don't think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but also to be moderate right now in the Western world is to be right wing. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like to be moderate, to be apolitical in the Western world right now, when you know there's an like underlying and bubbling to the surface transgenocide. There's I can name all the things, right? I'm not gonna go through
that's another thing that I've seen like a lot of in this video. My bad, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's it. All the things, y'all know what they are. Y'all know all the issues we tend to talk about and care about. Those things are in dire straits. This isn't like,
but
you know,
I want to make sure that I'm saying though, because I don't know if she even realizes it.
I feel like she gives
but the way that the society is built favors the right wing. Most people are going to agree with some right wing talking points across the board because you've been inculcated with those ideas from jump. Off rip, you had this nonsense in your head. So most people are going to agree with some form of right wing whatever, because that's just how it is. That's what happens when you're trying to revolutionize society or change some shit. You're pushing against a massive status quo, and that's the situation we're in right now. So yeah, there's going to be more people, generally speaking, in the middle / to the right, because we're in a middle / to the right ass society. Like that's just the fact of fucking situation.
Right.
I mean, I think she mentions. Also, sorry, someone said I'm like out of sync, but I don't know how to fix it with like my audio.
It is what it is.
I think she's like mentioned that like the left has like this massive battle, this uphill battle, and she like commends people on the left for working that hard. But at the same time, I think there's this thing that she's trying to bring up about how she believes that the left like fails at being inclusive, where the right like doesn't have like these strict like, hey, you need to do this to be on the right. The right doesn't have that as much as the left does. Like the left is like, well, we're not going to tolerate transphobia. We're not going to tolerate racism. We're not going to, all these things. And for some reason, like, I think her whole video is saying like, well, that's fundamentally a problem. And I think for me, like, it's not actually a problem. I'm just
no, I don't want you over here, nigga. I don't want you
over here having a good time.
I don't think she thinks as much of a problem as I think what's maybe not more worrisome, but more, I don't know, maybe relatable, that she thinks is not realistic. Right? Like she thinks you have to assume that not ever, like there's no way we all could get on the same page about some sort of fundamental like human decency or perspective on people. And so you must be aware, and I guess to what Bellamy was saying before, right? This idea like when you have to hold space for all the ideas, even holding space for things on the fringes or things that are so antithetical to like more progressive ideas, like take space up in your brain. Like it makes it so you have to move a little bit more to that which you don't even like.
Let's get to that section, so we can at least have her words to kind of respond to directly. So I think this is all like various.
That's the point. Kathleen. And I did read an interview with Maya.
This is all various, just British,
from a religious perspective, and individuals who are atheists and writing from an atheistic perspective, and they all come together to write exceptional pieces and articles and essays. I would highly recommend subscribing to and reading Unheard.
There we go. Okay.
The first I would say is political dogma. The left has started off with good intentions, very good intentions, particularly when it comes to representing and speaking for and giving a platform to minority issues. However, the left has largely left these good intentions in the dust in pursuit of more accessible ends, as well as more accessible causes, namely identity politics. For instance, representing minority issues such as that of trans individuals is an exceptional and important thing. However, doing that at the expense of letting a woman write about gender causes issues, understandably.
I don't want to, we're not going to jump on every trend transphobic dog whistle. I just want to put that out there. So if you're thinking that we're letting something slide, we'll come back here because this is an undercurrent of the whole video.
It's a lot.
But we're not gonna jump on each one of them. I do want to talk about her statement about identity politics, which I agree with, and I agree with that from the perspective of let me let her finish because I'm going to jump into other things she says that she hasn't said yet.
And is something that I would say is ultimately an example of leaving good intentions in the dust in pursuit of a far more accessible and palatable perspective. And in this, I think, regrettably, the left has very little to say, specifically the online left, has very little to say in the way of macro issues, contrary to micro issues. The left has a lot to say about micro issues, and I would say that trans issues are in Northern Europe.
I'm sorry.
That was
The
one of the
second
things
reason I would
that was,
say
like, in my
that the
notes.
left is losing people or Northern Europe.
Where am I at?
The
No,
second
this is
reason
right
I would
here.
say
Okay.
that the left is losing people, or the reason why people are skeptical of the left, is the modern left likes to revise history according to the postmodern staple of there being no grand narratives and no universal truths. And the left's adoption of this postmodern staple has led it into a lot of contradictions and therefore into a lot of infighting. This infighting distracts from those macro issues, from those macro concerns and conversations, and results in a lot of infighting that mainly in this day and age
Bill,
revolves
where is
around
the
particularly trans
thing when she
issues
gets
or
into
anything
race?
Just in terms of my personal politics.
Oh,
like transracial
that's
stuff?
that's
No, not that, not the
It's
transracial
like the
stuff.
trans women.
We'll
Hit
get
pause,
there.
hit pause,
Come
hit
on,
pause,
just
hit
like,
pause.
oh, you came and
You got
When
18
she
things on
get-
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, when she get
I got you. I'm here to do this real time now. I ain't got to yell at you in the chat no more. I can tell you.
That's so funny.
when she talks about the lack of diversity on the left versus
Oh,
the right. What was
But
that?
that's bullshit.
I know, but I want to.
I need to chill. I need to
I
chill because I
remember
don't
what it
need to get irritated with her. Because I'm trying to take her for who she is.
I think it's around like minute 34
it's not that far in, is it?
where she starts talking about like it has a stricter criteria, and then like the right had the
Yeah,
more
I
degrees
don't
based.
know where it is, but she put that like whole chart up there. I remember she got a
Yeah.
chart up there.
very comfortable in its own
Yeah,
self-righteousness
hold up, Feet,
and the
Feet.
small percentage of trans
You stop. I'll do it, and I'll give you time.
Oh, okay,
My-
sorry.
Can
My
we quickly
heart
just
is
talk about
hurting
the
right now.
macro issue thing? Because I know you skipped through it a little bit, but she talked about, she gave, she said the thing about what she felt was micro issues, but her only example for a macro issue was the economy, nothing else.
But, like,
Because she knows if she says anything else, it's actually all the micro issues that she's saying that we talk too much about, in my opinion.
Right.
We have it's a whole subset of the left that pisses me the fuck off because all they talk about is class at the expense of everything else. What do you mean? And then to take identity and turn it into like a micro issue for me is nonsense too. No, not nonsense. It is a mistake too, because what do you mean? We suffer the issues we suffer as an identity because of the various structures of society. This isn't a micro issue.
Right.
It is illuminating a larger problem. That's part of what fucking identity politics is. That's part of what intersectionality is supposed to do. You look at the intersections that different people have, that different groups have, and it gives you a more full picture of society so you can actually understand what the hell is happening. That's what this is. These aren't micro issues. These are just issues. Trans issues are not micro issues. They're issues. Bodily autonomy is an everybody issue. That is not a me issue. That is an all of you issue.
Yeah.
And to address a normie perspective, right? So I might hear somebody say, I care about the economy. And I might break it down and say, so why do you care about the economy? Well, because people, can't take care of themselves and don't have jobs. Well, what population of people fits into that description you just gave? Most likely, they would say Black people. And so it's like, okay, so why are Black people overrepresented in the description you just gave? You would have to eventually get to racism. You know what I'm saying?
There's a lot of there's a lot of surface level stuff. There's no like why, no asking why, no asking how. It's a lot of just like looking at the way things are, right? Like for instance, we might get there, but she gives an example later where she goes through like, oh, there's a whole bunch of how I left left videos on YouTube, but there's no why I left the right videos on YouTube. There's only one. Why do you think that is? That it's there for a reason. That this isn't accidental. This isn't just the normal permutation of society, so to speak. That shit is there for a specific reason. It's because that shit's propaganda. That's why the fuck's that shit's there. And it's because YouTube boosts propaganda.
Right.
That's why you see so many of those videos versus you see in ours. You just there's no like structural / power analysis here. There's just this like surface level liberalism.
It's really like her
I'll put a link in the private chat for you, cheap feek, so you can get to the timestamp.
It's really like the resistance to want to attribute things to any sort of system or like systemic inequity, right? To like, and I feel like it comes from, and I feel like Kidology would have to know this, right? She seems very learned, so it's more like a choice to say, okay,
she's not silly,
right? There's two, and to be fair, I guess what's frustrating to me about it, right? Thinking about it from a more normie perspective, from maybe more like my parents or like my, my friends that aren't as much into leftist politics, right? There are two equal ways to see the world. Do I look at it as systemic problems are plaguing me and that's why my life sucks? Or do I look for a system that offers me a bunch of pragmatic solutions, or at least says it's my fault, so that, or that it's like people's fault? Therefore that like I feel like I have some more semblance of control over the situation. And that's kind of what both breaks my heart and leaves me confounded about how do you argue that? Because I mean, sure, you could not trust people, but you're kind of not better off for that. And I think that's what moderates and progressives kind of fundamentally disagree upon in a lot of ways. Like they like freedom of speech, but they don't.
Only when the speech reifies the status quo.
Exactly.
Because if you kneel at a football game, they want you to lose everything. You know what I'm saying? And
they'll take everything from you, but if you steal welfare money, you good, right? If you steal welfare money, it's all right.
It's all right. You know what I'm saying?
Fuck you mean?
Hold on. So we're at the part, and then we'll jump back around because there's so many things. This is one. I think this might have been it's too late in the video, so I guess I'd already blew my mind earlier. But this was a big one for me. I wanted to jump on.
Very accepting of a diverse membership, and this
the right is very accepting of a diverse membership.
There we go.
So we are, So
if I was right, okay.
Again,
My bad. Hold on, my bad.
No, pause it because I wanted to make sure that I hit on this too because I remember I put it in the notes and it was my first note because it drove me nuts. The right already filters by ideology. That already happens. This is not like, they already filter by ideology. They have tools, they have people that they use as tools, but they're already filtered by ideology. If you go
let them see this part because I want them to connect your words.
All right, go ahead.
To this part because it's perfect.
When we look at the political spectrum and we look at that segment which is designated to the right, from the center right to the ultra orthodox right, there is a lot going on and there is a lot of space for a lot of different identities. You can be conservative in values without being religious. You can be a conservative atheist. You can be a conservative insofar as how you organize your finances and your personal life whilst being socially quite liberal. You can celebrate Christmas with your family, believe in the traditional family unit, be patriotic whilst also being completely anti-establishment. There are vigilantes, there are libertarians, there is a whole situation going on there, and it is truly diverse and fascinating just from a political and theoretical perspective. But it also means that there's a lot of space for a lot of identities, and I think because the right and conservative thinking is very much about the family and tradition and also every individual for themselves, I think it works weirdly. And the right is a very mixed bag of identities, of individuals who are working class to the ultra rich, and this is truly exceptional and very interesting to see, especially in our day and age. And I think adding on to this, another reason why the right is at an advantage relative to the left today, I would say, is because of populism.
All right, so
that was a lot.
Yeah, the right is accepting of all these identities unless you're queer or black or trans or all these things.
Well, hold on. I'm gonna. So you can actually be all those things on the right as long as you agree that those things are inherently bad. And you're sorry for being
right. That's what I'm saying. It's already filtered by it is already filtered by ideology. Two things, and they both bangers. I know they banger because I fucking thought about it. Number one,
talk that shit.
Most people don't understand fascists. Most people don't get fascists. Straight up, that's it. Like, and that's not even to be mean to nobody. That's not to say that you silly, that you this. To understand fascists, you have to study fascists. This ain't like a like you could just look at it and see that like most people see a fascist and they see something's wrong. But to understand like fascism, you have to actually study that shit. And good for everybody in the chat right now. You got somebody in the motherfucker that do that. Me. They communicate in ways that makes it seem like they're very welcoming. They do this shit on purpose. This isn't an accident. They look like they're diverse because what they do is they pluck out, for lack of a better term, they pluck out the pick-me's, right? And they put the pick-me's up there. So they say, oh, look, they must have a bunch of black people because they got Herschel Walker running. Herschel Walker almost won in Georgia. They must got a ton of black people. No, they don't. They ain't got no damn black people for the most part. The people that was voting for Herschel Walker were white people. Straight up. That's just how that is. Like, I don't know how that's it. Like, that's the end of that conversation, right? And then number two, hold up, let me see. I got it in here.
Oh, no, it's bad.
No, because that was the first one. The first one was most people don't understand fascists. Damn. Hold up, I had it too. See this? Look at this ADD. Y'all go ahead.
So I want to like this. I have so much heat for this section.
I got so much heat.
I got so much smoke for this particular point because it was of all the points that she made that I disagree with. Well, no, let me not because there's several of them, but this one to me was the most asinine. It was the most like absent of like median level knowledge of the right and the left at a certain point. And the first thing I'll do is it proves it accidentally proves her point, because the reason why she thinks the way she does in this section is because the online left is so fucking white.
White as fuck.
It's white as fuck. And if you see the online left and you see what the online left spends most of its time doing and who they tend to target and criticize and spend time dunking on, if you only go by that and nothing else, then everything she's saying makes some sense.
Right.
But
go ahead, Lua had heat for this. Go ahead, Lua.
Go ahead, Lua. I got more. I'll jump back in. We can tag in and out like wrestles.
I'm just actually listening. I was gonna say something a bit ago, but I forgot what it was. So just like, yeah.
Oh,
so talk about like it not being diverse, because you said something earlier where you saying like you wanted to bring up that you knew people that were doing actual work.
Yeah, sorry.
Like not online. That's cool. It's cool.
Yeah. Well, I can talk a bit about that. I'm like having a hard time connecting that to this, but feel free to help me. But yeah, there's just like so many people who are doing like so much work, who are doing mutual aid, who are creating all these like networks to help people. And those are people who are like leftist. And it's just like, I know so many people who are poor and grew up poor, who, because they grew up poor, they're very left leaning. So it's just like this whole idea of like the left doesn't like cater to poor people just seems out of touch to me. Yeah. Like I don't know who you're talking about. It feels like a projection. I just genuinely don't know who you're talking about, because that just has not been my experience.
She's talking about no shade ContraPoints. She's talking about Jenny Nicholson, no shade.
Yeah.
She's talking about the big bread tube figures and the big bread tube accounts and the image of the online left. And I talk about this in my video, and I got love for all those people I named, right? But I talk about the fact that they didn't choose to be the face of the online left. C1J mentioned that in one of his videos a while back. The algorithm chose them. The algorithm understood that there was something to be gleaned from giving a platform to these talented, attractive, white, safe, left-leaning people. And the community that was formed under and around them reflects a lot of the points that she just made. She is right about that from that very specific and very uninformed context. Meanwhile, here I am, a cis hetero man with a traditional family that just celebrated the fuck out of Christmas. You know what I'm saying? Like she's saying that shit.
Let me cut in real quick, FD, and say like, not only is I guess like she's right from the online left looking as like pale as it does, But on the other side, to what Bellamy was saying, right? How fascism works, and I'm not calling every right-wing YouTube influencer a fascist because that's dangerous for my health. But it's the fact that the clip that she showed, the edit that she showed, there are a lot more unicorns in the right-wing ecosphere, right? There are a lot more Indian, Black, like not your typical what you expect, because that's what they're trying to market. Just like Bellamy said, like white people are the people that voted for Herschel Walker, even though he was Black, because that's the point. That's the tool.
That's literally the point. That's why Clarence Thomas is on the Supreme Court.
Right,
nigga would not be there.
We're up
Black.
against two
Straight
opposing
up.
forces, both that bread tube or whatever you want to call it. Like this leftist, progressive, smart yet very high quality, entertaining media is overwhelmingly white. But then in the negative timeline, on the opposite side of the spectrum, we also have their version of high quality, entertaining content being provided for a lot of these people who are middle of the road. I feel like a different diverse face that kind of assuages their white guilt, or unknowingly allows a person of color to be like, oh, well, maybe I do agree with liberalism. Maybe I am the problem.
So
right?
I got my second banger. I remember my second banger.
Yeah, and I'm tagging it after that.
All right, I bet. So the nonsense about the left is constantly infighting. Everybody constantly infighting. That's bullshit. Like that's just people disagreeing about shit. And that's true whether you're on the left or on the right. And I know that people don't understand. Like, if you're really going to understand the right wing, you got to pay a lot of attention, and you got to know where to look to find these motherfuckers. And I'm not going to tell nobody that, because don't everybody need to know. But when you listen, if you go to go to Knowledge Fight, right? Knowledge Fight is a podcast, and they cover Alex Jones. But they did a couple of episodes on somebody named Nick Fuentes. Most of the people in the chat probably know who Nick Fuentes is. Nick Fuentes is a good example of the same sort of issues we have on the left. Not the same exact thing, but like this quote unquote infighting thing, right? Mm-hmm. He will attack and cannibalize the audience of another right winger to grow his platform, because that's the point. He's part of a pipeline. There's infighting because there's already disagreement. There is some truth to the idea that right wingers manage to unite behind certain shit and get shit done. In that regard, there is some truth to that, but a lot of that has to do also with structural problems of society, making it easier for them to agree with one another. On the left, you're in a project where you're trying to build a new society. The disagreements you have are about literally the next step you're supposed to take. They're gonna be fervent. They're gonna be frequent. They have to be. That's not a bug. That's a feature. That's how the shit works. You're figuring out what you're doing, so you argue it out, so then you figure out what to do next. That's how it is. That's not a bad thing. That's just a thing.
I feel like the biggest dog whistle is the idea that like when people say that boys or whoever, this population is more naturally attuned towards traditional or conservative values, and it completely ignores the idea that like they're on argument, like they've been refining that argument for centuries, multiple centuries, and the whole point of our movement, right? Like of course, like even if it was a shit argument, like you've been hearing this same shit argument for so long that like it is not an argument anymore. And yeah, we do have, that's the annoying part with agreeing with the lazy politics part of Kidology's point, right? Which is like, I do feel like it's worth reminding people that we are having to do the hard job of making the arguments right now for people to not go the hegemonic route. Right. We do have to sort of redefine common sense solutions and make them feel common sense to people who feel like individualism and liberalism is the common sense thing, which is that's why Kidology is so compelling, right? Because or Jordan Peterson, even all the way down to like Hosma, and yeah, I take that critique that we are working on, and that should be our priority to make those common sense answers for people, or think through them for them, think through them with them.
The thing that like really alarmed me about this section is just the lack of just how this is just counterfactual, right? If you look at like just the identity of if you draw the line at leftists, just look at the voting patterns of America. You clearly see that the Republicans are predominantly white by a wide margin, and that all the diversity, racially, economically, and gender-wise, is on the left. The left, in this case, being Democrats, of course. And so, like, that was just flabbergasting to me that was something that did not click in her head to say, "Ooh, I don't know if this one holds up under scrutiny," right? Like when you look at just the Black community alone, it's not 50, and maybe it's 50-50, maybe it's different in the UK, which makes that make more sense. I'll hold that for anybody in the UK that can speak to it more clearly. But definitely in America, that is completely untrue. So, but that's not so I don't know where we want to go next. That I wanted to get to that one. We got a couple of bangers to touch on here.
I got nothing but bangers in these notes, so you let me know.
Right.
Honestly,
I come up with the transracial stuff.
Oh yes. So where am I at? Oh, that's right here.
That.
Yeah, the transracial. No, that's the wrong thing. There we go. Okay.
That's what we needed, Lil Bill. I wanted him to talk about these fallacies.
A little Bill in the chat. Pop off in the chat, Lil Bill. We see you.
Yeah, pop off in the chat, Lil Bill. Here we go. All right, so
I'm Happy Kelly, and I'm.
But first, we need this commercial from Happy Kelly. I don't. Y'all can tell I don't stream.
I like them colors though. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Wait. So wait, you don't actually own YouTube Premium, or you just not?
Hell no, I ain't never. I got 18 ad blockers. Man. I ain't never gonna buy.
I'm old. Premium. Like these are just commercials to me. It's so funny when like my kids see commercials and they don't like change. They're like, "Why are you watching this?" I'm like, "This is a commercial."
Please click skip ad. I'm begging you.
It's
right there. You don't see it. So
it's off the side on my screen.
All right, yeah.
One becomes Black. It's a social construct, a performance. Women to that position, one is automatically labeled some kind of phobia or.
Hold on. And this I'm gonna have to slow it down because she's playing someone else's video and then she has captions of her response at the bottom. So I'm going to give it. Yeah, I'm starting.
Individuals in the comment section of this article labeled him as transphobic. Rather than engaging with the science or with experts, the entire field, which is really and truly the foundation of modern thinking, is dismissed. This, in my opinion, is simply the easy way out. I've also noticed recently that with the discourse on transracialism or relative to transgenderism, there is no expertise or knowledge on the left about how the two differ. Yet, on the other hand, complete obedience to that distinction is expected. And if one does not completely agree or is not completely obedient to that position, one is automatically labeled some kind of phobia or exiled. Complete obedience and compliance is expected to the left's perspective on social issues and identities.
So I want to again reiterate two things for anybody that just joined. The transphobic dog whistles, we're going to talk about again maybe in a second, and we talked about it at the beginning. They permeate the whole video, and we can't keep talking about it. And then, there was another thing that I can't remember. So I'm just let her finish.
Without question.
Being versus becoming has always been a hot topic in philosophy. Are you born a woman or do you become a woman? Simone de Beauvoir asked, and she said, you become one. Gender is a performance. You actually perform it every day. And Sarah's way.
So the first statement is, well, I'm gonna let y'all can read. Shit, I ain't gotta repeat it.
One becomes white, one becomes Black. It's a social construct, a performance. Now there's a big problem there. You can't compare the two. That would be very dishonest. We think that's wrong. The rules of gender and race are always changing. And given this, the question that really matters isn't whether individuals.
So I just want to start with this caption. Bothered me immediately because she said that the article is biased because it was made by two leftist academics. If she had just said that the argument was poor and contradictory, I wouldn't have had an issue there. But she loads her statement with that preconceived, like preordained value proposition that the article is biased because it's written by two leftist academics. So first off, the vast majority of academics in any social sciences are leftists. Like, let's just put that out there, right?
I mean,
So,
everything
like,
is biased. Everything is biased. There's nothing that's not biased. It's all
It's already
biased.
telling
Every
just
single
to
thing is
use-
biased. You can't separate it from humanity. You can't
Right.
separate it from humans. Therefore, there's a person that wrote the thing, and the person has a bias. Every single person on the face of this fucking planet who has the ability to think has an ideology. That's it.
right. So there's that. But to use that, and so maybe you don't believe that, right? I would disagree with you, but if you don't believe that, I can accept that to be your truth. By disagreeing with the article based on its origins and then not breaking down the actual thing, there's a lot of loadedness in that. But I want to let her continue.
Rules like Diallo and Krug are in fact black given our present rules of racial classification, but whether they should be accepts the fact that what gender and race mean change with time. On the other hand, figuring out what a woman really is or who really is black leads us to argue in a essentialist framework. Basically, a woman is someone with a uterus and a black person is someone with, I don't know, black skin. Stepping out of that essentialist framework allows us to take into account all the elements, cultural, social, economic, that can help us understand who should be considered as a woman and who should be considered as black. In the case of blackness, inequality accumulates intergenerationally. In the US, sociologists point at weathering, inheritance gaps between black and white households as proof of that. Now, obviously, gender is not a historical. Women, queer people as...
I like how she doesn't address that really important point she made about the literal, like, biological cost of being black that you pass on to your children. Like, that's
I was just thinking about this shit today because I was thinking about it, trying to talk about the experience of racism. If you black, you experience racism before you could think. When you were a fucking embryo, you were experiencing racism because your parent was experiencing racism. Right. Because your parent was taking all of that shit that was happening to them, and that doesn't not affect you. It's why infant mortality rates are higher. It's why death rates are higher when you're giving birth and you're black in the hospital.
That's why allostatic loads are different. Like, sorry,
right?
No, you good. You good.
No, I don't understand what she means by this essentialism versus like she's combating essentialism with essentialism, because by talking about the biological cost of what it's like to like be a different race rather than what it's like to be a different gender, and how even the quote that she pulls out, it's like, it's really like, does this person deserve to be referred to as this race rather than this gender, adds nuance that makes it less essentialist, right? It's about looking at the different degrees by which both of these are social constructs, and she gets that part, right? That's the false equivalence. But the way that we stratify them, or the way that we talk through race versus the way we talk through gender society, is different and has to be different, right? Because
they're different things. They're different things. Calamine, Tay, you gonna say different shit?
Yeah.
You're saying gender. You're saying gender and race are different? No, still.
Who would have thought? You know.
Oh.
But like, if you only accept that they're two equal things, you end up with this argument.
I think there's also something to be said for what is gender equality and what is racial equality. I think when you're talking about when people are trans, for example, like I feel like what's really fascinating to me about like when you talk about trans issues, like it fundamentally challenges how we think of gender. And I think there's like almost no way to get around it. Like to me, like studying feminism and studying studying gender theory went hand in hand. And essentially like when it comes to like understanding like what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, and how those things are social constructs, and how we can literally just change those ideas to be more inclusive of people, to be more liberating, self-expressive. We can literally just do that. And other cultures have done that in the past constantly and still do. Like that's just something that we can just decide to do as a culture. And so there's like gender equality, like literally like we achieve like a level of gender equality for everyone in criticizing like how we have this binary gender and expanding our idea of gender in all these ways. There's that's like something that like whether you're trans or not, there's like a level of equality there in gender. When it comes to like racial equality, is there really like equality where exclusively white people, because white people can, kind of be more racially androgynous if they choose to be? For me, like I can't just be like, hey everyone, I'm white. Like, have you seen you know, that the Atlanta
I'm
clip.
gonna do it because I look just like this nigga.
Go ahead. This nigga did the meme. I'm screaming.
That was amazing.
Somebody clip this.
I'm screaming.
Yeah,
Fuck
like
you.
like the Atlanta clip where this person's like, hey, like I identify as a white man, and he's like, I'm gonna go under my operation, and then he just like wears like a blonde wig. It's like, I'm white now. It's like,
And that's what I'm
you
saying. Like,
you can't.
it's different shit.
It's
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's different in the way where it's like racial equality is not a world where like there's white people who get a tan and then they can like pretend that they're like part black, and then black people put on a blonde wig and say that they're white now, but then still get, you know, face racism every day. Like I think
whistle. I'm sorry, real quick. And the dog whistle there is that's how she sees trans women.
Sure, yeah. So I just like, I think these are like, I think just in that, those are like two fundamentally different conversations.
Like,
they function differently. And maybe one day, like I hope this isn't said, like maybe one day we can get in a world where people or white people can like feel like they're black because they are a part of black culture or something. Like one day in like a racially equitable world, maybe we could have that conversation. But we're not really like, that's not how we get to racial
under
equality.
socialism.
We don't get
the
to racial
cookout is
equality.
back open, y'all.
Oh, nigga, don't even
under
know,
socialism,
don't.
the cookout is back open, but we ain't there.
Y'all doing the socialism.
Yeah.
I'm over here. I'm doing my own shit. Y'all do that shit. I'm doing something else. I just want that out there.
But to conclude, it's like, how do we get to racial equality? How do we get to gender equality? And those roads look different. And gender equality includes trans people. Racial equality doesn't include white people pretending to be black or black people putting on a blonde wig. I mean, look,
like if we want to take the criticism, right, that people, because I think this is probably true, especially if you're white and you're on the left, you don't know how to talk about gender versus race as separate things, right? So if you want to take that seriously, you want to talk about it, let's talk about it. Gender and race are both social constructs, correct, but that doesn't mean that they're the same thing. They can't be, because they're different things, right? If it was just enough that something's a social construct for it to be comparable this way, then we could just everything would be a single fucking sandwich or whatever. But this is not how it is, right? Gender functions differently from race. Gender, in large part, also functions on like how people perceive you.
Pause real quick.
Go ahead.
Y'all, we're being nice to Kidology in the chat.
Oh,
I want to be very clear to that.
Hey, ban them. If they said some shit funny, ban them.
We're not insulting
Kidology.
We're critiquing. We're not insulting. We're not casting aspersions. I don't think Kidology is a grifter. I don't agree with her politics, and I definitely am very bothered and disappointed by this video. But we're being nice to Kidology in the chat. I just want to be clear. All right.
Hey, if they said that, because we said that shit when we jumped off and you came here acting funny, don't even give them a second chance. Ban the motherfuckers. We're not playing shit.
So damn, I can't even make people. You keep going while I figure out how to make people moderators.
All right. So if we're talking about how gender functions versus how race functions, right? A lot of it functions upon appearance. That's true, right? I can't go and get estrogen and be white. That ain't how that shit works. I'm on estrogen and it's gonna change my body, right? Because our bodies, from at least my understanding, is mostly function on hormones, actually, right? But race don't function on hormones. That's melanin content, right? That's your hair. It's your cultural expression. The way I'm talking right now. If you didn't even see my face, you hear how I'm talking right now. You know what this means. Because it don't sound funny. I don't sound like a white person trying to imitate a black person. You feel me? Like,
right.
It functions in a different way. It ain't the same thing. So you're going to say, oh, we can look at it holistically and we can compare it. Like, no, like you can't. Because they're just different. They connect and inform one another. That's true. But they don't function the same way. You can't inherit your gender. You can't really inherit your race, but you kind of
inherit the consequences of your race.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
The note that I had written down was that, like, I feel like race is conferred upon you a lot more, or a lot of people have a more of an experience of race being conferred upon them than like gender, where like the norm is to think gender being expressed outward And to me, like, that's how I see how they're fundamentally different things, right? Because a lot of our issues with race is the fact that the light skin problem, right? The paper bag test is like when a person, no, not me,
the light skin problem,
right? You know,
Don't get me started.
As a light skin, I'm screaming. That's funny as hell.
The paper bag test, right? Like, I've never had to go through that, right? I'm ambiguously black, but if you go through life knowing that you could hit a street corner and some person confers whiteness upon you because you're no longer, or non-blackness upon you, you realize that, like, well, really, race is not really. I don't get to decide that a lot, right? It's something that just happens to me, and there's not really a way for me to affirm it. I mean, like, all the other ways we can be racist, but like, there's not like racial affirming care the way that like there's a gender affirming process, I guess, if that makes sense.
Right. And hold up, before you do that, I want to make sure I say something too, because I don't want trans people or really anybody in the chat to hear this wrong. I used estrogen as an example. Taking estrogen doesn't make me trans. But go ahead.
Yeah, and that's kind of at the core of this argument's problem is a genuine, I think, more sort of a misunderstanding of transness and essentially a perspective on transness that is transphobic, is what it comes down to. Of not seeing transness as a real thing, or a thing any more real, or a real thing like being a woman or a gender expression. Like, that's what it comes down to as a whole. There was
also, can I say one thing about adoptees? Like, I don't think she mentions this, but like, transracial doesn't mean, or at least it originally didn't mean, that you just like switch your races or swap races. Like, transracial was a word for adoptees who were adopted by a family of a different race. And so it always bothers me when people don't clarify that.
That's another
as an
thing.
adoptee. And she's also
like,
an adoptee.
If there's one reason to know that transracial isn't a thing, it's the fact that there's like 4 white people that have tried to do it. And everybody else has just acted like a nigga until they didn't want to anymore. You know what I'm saying? like
let me perform. Hold on. I'm a perform.
Your audio's going to ruin the joke.
I'm sure that was fire.
End up, you know.
Dang, we maybe actually lost Bellamy. I'm gonna jump into this whiteness as is part. I don't remember it, but I know something's wrong with it. So I'm gonna just
recordings just got
first.
better.
We're gonna see this ad.
Hey, it's Dana from StreamYard. I'm so excited to announce.
Hey, at least it's a StreamYard one.
I think another thing which the right has in its favor, especially today, is that it accepts whiteness as an identity as it is. That is, white individuals who are on the right are not told that they must feel guilty. They are not told about their privilege. They are not told to check themselves or that they have all the power. Their identity as a white individual who may be patriotic, who may be family and traditionally oriented, who may be heterosexual and happy in kind of very clearly defined gender roles, is seen as a good and acceptable thing. And I think especially for the large cohort of individuals whom the contemporary left in North America and in Northern Europe has neglected, namely the white working class, definitely find an identity and allegiance in that with the right. And I think another thing that the right really has in its favor,
move the fuck on.
like look how tiny that section is.
Oh man, no wonder I couldn't remember it, because she was like, yeah, so you know, racism is cool, whiteness is cool, white supremacy, whatever.
Moving on.
All right, so moving on, diversity. So I guess it's time to point out, we've skipped it, but she seems to be a Vosh fan. And I'm not going to get too deep into it, but this is a major criticism of certain portions of the online left, because I don't think what she just said counts for certain portions. I think certain portions of the online left will completely be okay with what she just said, right? Because they're not, they don't understand whiteness as a property, as a class distinction, right? And that's a big thing missing from the online left, is like, everybody did a critical race theory video. Nobody really understands critical race theory. They think that whiteness is an identity, and whiteness is not an identity. It's a property. It's a class distinction. in other nations where there are no people that look like, I don't know, Brad Pitt or whatever, you may not call them white, but the concept of whiteness being unraced is still very much a thing. And I think we got Bellamy back.
Yeah, I'm back. What's good?
And so the reason why the left is explicitly critical of whiteness is because whiteness is a core ingredient to conservatism and the problems of capitalism and the challenges that we all face. And it's the underlying uncritical engagement with whiteness that allows these things to persist unchallenged. It allows for colorblind racism. It allows for girl boss feminism, for white feminism. It allows for neoliberal politics because we're going into these policies and strategies and initiatives and reforms and voter bills or whatever, not thinking about how race and how whiteness is subterfuge into whatever the problem is. And so, yeah, the left will never, if the left is doing its job, will never stop challenging the social construct of whiteness as a core ingredient to the problems we have. Now, this doesn't mean that people of European descent who have possession of whiteness are inherently bad for possessing that thing. That's why we have anti-racism. That's why we have accomplices, not allies. That's why we need people to be traitors to that concept and seek to undermine it wherever they can. And, and when we don't do that, we get vicious. You know what I'm saying? like that's what happens. So, and I don't want to dwell too much on your boy, but I couldn't. That was just the easiest example to make that make sense. You know what I'm saying?
And I also want to add, I don't know if she's talking about whiteness in the same way that you are, Feek. Yeah, Lil Bill says whiteness is a construct designed to justify the creation of an exploited class based on skin color. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good definition of whiteness. And I'm not sure if she's talking about that. In her, because in this really short section, she's talks about people getting married, and I don't think she used the term the nuclear family, but she kind of describes essentially that. So I think it's actually kind of hard to even criticize this or engage with it because I think she is working out of a different definition of whiteness and is just kind of referring to maybe an older standard of American society.
Yeah, I think to her, whiteness means normal. She kind of gets at that in this section. Is that I'll go back and replay it. She all but says that, going back a little bit.
And I believe she's
maybe family
adopted,
and traditionally
right?
oriented, who may be heterosexual and happy in kind of very clearly defined gender roles, is seen as a good and acceptable thing. And I think especially
don't do that.
Hold up.
I think another thing which the right has in its favor, especially today, is that it accepts whiteness as an identity, as it is. That is, white individuals who are on the right are not told that they must feel guilty. They are not told about their privilege. They are not told to check themselves or that they have all the power. Their identity as a white individual who may be patriotic, who may be family and traditionally oriented, who may be heterosexual and happy in kind of very clearly defined gender roles is...
Yeah, that's so confusing because she names whiteness, I'm assuming we're just gonna say as the race, right? And she basically says the left makes white people check their privilege and apologize for being white, which those are two things I do kind of hate in the greater context of leftist liberal discourse. So I get her there, but then she transmutes it to having children in a nuclear family and getting married, etc. And I don't get what that could be other than either pointing out that those are normative things that belong to white people first and everybody else just gets to have a piece if they do things right. Or I don't know. I honestly don't know. Anybody else want to jump in?
Hold up real quick. Zebra, I don't see why that matters. Shut the fuck up. Continue.
St. Andrewism said, I'm apolitical, but basically that's what you said, I'm apolitical, but here's my 1+ hour long video on politics. So yeah, it's a lot of working through these ideas, isn't it? And I guess that's why I can't, like, why I think Kidology is worth talking about.
Yeah,
I do think it's really interesting that like there's a there's like so many people who are like, I'm apolitical, I'm not into politics, and then they make these videos, and I'm like, what is this? How are you talking
what are you
about
doing?
race and gender and all these things without?
These are political things. And then when she gets to the online left,
My whole thing is
hold
being
on.
joyful.
That was supposed to be like a needle drop moment, and I fucked
Damn,
it up.
nigga, you killing me. I'm gonna send you some plugins because this is
Yeah,
too
at
much.
least
Hold
get
on,
you
hold
some
on, hold
ad
on.
blocker. But I'm telling you, like, you get to watch YouTube.
This is the
with your
online
phone.
left section.
I would say the first thing that I've noticed about the online left is that it is incredibly cliquey.
Today we are going to be talking about the creepy Balenciaga photo shoot you may have heard of, how I helped accidentally kick off Balenciaga Gate, the bizarre defenses of the photo shoot, and how I lost friends over it. No, I'm not joking. The worst part about this is that this tweet came from a YouTuber who I've been friends with for years. Why is this person, who I thought was my friend, doing this unhinged Stretch Armstrong reach to imply I am responsible for the murder of LGBT people? This isn't how you would treat a friend. This isn't criticism. This isn't a joke. This is disgusting. Maybe this is karma, because I've dropped friends over politics before. Because honestly, I can't find any other explanation for this.
In this day and age, I would say that the alt-right clique, which we see online, doesn't really have to do.
So I want to be fair. She used shoe on their head there, but she didn't add any value judgments to shoe on head's presence. So I'm not going to pin any shoe on head problems on her. Is that fair?
Oh, okay, I see what you mean. Yeah.
You know,
I don't understand. Sorry, can you
well, shoe on head's a problem.
I didn't know she was a problem. So.
Oh, shoe on head's a problem. shoe on head's
do we
problem.
need to know or
Nah, I don't even want to get into it. I want to focus on the problem at hand. But Sean has a problem. And so initially when I saw that, I was just like, are we about to like ride for Sean Head in this video while being apolitical? What Sean Head is getting at in that thing, and maybe this, and that's the argument. So that particular argument, I agree with her on, though, the cliquishness of the online left, the various different communities, and how these communities bunch up against each other, and how like everybody seems to think their shit doesn't stink, and just like the problems that are inherent in that. I agree with that. It was just that was a weird. I wasn't ready for that to be the example in the moment, and I don't want to. I kind of don't want to. I don't know. I want to keep moving into the section without like spending any time on it. If that's okay with y'all.
It's four of us here because there's a lot here to go through, and we can't go through all of it. So it is
Can I
what it
just?
is.
Yeah. So you don't. So we. Sorry, just to out of respect, so we can't talk about Sean Head at all.
I would just prefer.
Okay. I will not go over.
Boy,
why she is blamed for that.
Well, no. You know what? No, that's irresponsible. Thank you, Lua, for checking me on that.
I'm just asking. This is your channel. I don't want to get you into any trouble. I just think like if you keep on making content. Wait, can I say that? Wait, do I have? Is that okay?
Say what you gotta say. Say what you gotta say.
Yeah, no, we're all good.
Okay, sorry. This is your channel, so I want to be respectful. I just think like if you keep on making content talking about like how like queer people at Pride are like doing all this stuff that could potentially like groom kids because they're like showing kink and are like outward and like expressing their kink or talking about kink, and you make like content after content after content in a world where like people are also like saying like, oh, like all these gay people are groomers, and you keep on making video after video after video talking about like people who are queer and into kink are hurting your kids, and then like that narrative keeps on getting pushed. It's like that is contributing harm. Like you might not have like directly been responsible for like this one single person who shut up Q Club, but like your rhetoric has certainly been contributing to the homophobia. Like there's just not. I don't know if we're being real, if we're not like.
Yeah, no, you're right. Thank you for holding me on that, because that's just the reality of the situation. Much of what she's done is indefensible, which is what led, like, to put in perspective, the debate bros stopped fucking with Shoe on Head because she was too problematic. just the best way I can explain. It's the best way I can explain the problem of Shoe on Head is that the debate bros are like, you're too toxic. And we don't fuck with you no more because you're so toxic. So yeah, that's that and because it's operating in their space, I just try to, dip and dive. But it's important to point out that this was not just petty beef. It's to I guess give them some kudos. This wasn't petty beef. They ousted her because she had repeatedly done like some ugly homophobic, transphobic stuff to a very large audience, and kept trying to be like, "Oh, oops, I didn't know." And it's like, all right,
No, she wasn't like
that kind of breaks.
I didn't know. She was like, this. See, this is what I mean. This is what I mean that this is hurting your children. That's. Anyways, we don't have to get into it too much. I know we want to move on, but
right.
Yeah.
So.
Much in appealing to new followers. And this is largely because there is, as I said, so much infighting among the left, and because the online left is very extreme in its opinions and is often then seen or caricatured as representing the entirety of the left. And it's very easy to do this when there is, as I said, so much infighting, and when the left really doesn't have a homogenous or very clear-cut identity relative to the right, even in all its multifaceted glory. So the cliquiness of the online left is not actually to its advantage. In fact, I think it just feeds into a lot of the infighting that we see in the generic left in North America and in Northern Europe. Because I think what is interesting is that when we look at alt-right cliques, such as that of Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson, Candace Owens, Matt Walsh, etc., their allegiance is very much a political one. They are political collaborators. They are trying to politically influence and to make money. They are trying to spread a particular social, political, economic message. They are in allegiance because there is some kind of self-interest, some kind of overall interest for them and for the brand that is, say, the Daily Wire. With the online left, however, their allegiance and their collaboration is not one that is sort of a higher purpose. It's about friendship. People who collaborate on YouTube on the left are friends. And a lot of their collaboration is based on their friendship, or the drama surrounding that friendship is based on personal things that then get exposed in DMs, in conversations that they have together. It's all very much based on friendships ending or being created. And I think with anything that involves friendship, it's very hard, at least contemporarily, to go against your friends or to critique and criticize your friends.
Oh, I got a bold joint. Look at me.
Hey, look, I didn't even know you were on here. Oh, wow.
I didn't know I was on here either.
Oh, look at you. Imagine not making, you're not going to make Khadijah bold. Excuse me, man.
Right. You're not going to make Khadijah bold?
Khadijah
put me on.
Khadijah puts you here because of her.
Right.
She used to see that. You here because of her. Fuck you. Let me text Khadijah.
So all shade aside, I don't know if I have a lot of disagreement with what she's saying here. I don't know the value judgment she's trying to insert here. I think she's right that the right has no actual politics and they're there to get money and hurt people.
Yeah, I don't think that makes it politics as business though. It's just not towards like.
That's just part of their politics,
right? Yeah, like, I think it's disingenuous. I feel like to say that like the right doesn't operate on the same sort of like favors and friendships, which is why the Daily Mail works with the same set of collaborators, right? Which is why they have a TV network of their own.
They got a pipeline for a reason,
right? And that's actually the issue that we have, that we don't have as clean and efficient of a pipeline of them because we're not thinking that way. Which, if that's our argument, that like they are better at their job of propagandizing because they are more intentional about it.
Andrewism made me laugh. Andrewism said L for me. That's L for you, Andrew.
L for Andrew.
L for you. Should be an L for you. You need to be up here, Andrew.
I got to interview you on the stream and get you a dot, my nigga.
I'm telling you, we're gonna call somebody, get Andrew up here. Y'all better put some respect on Andrew's name.
What's funny, I don't know who half these people are going towards the commentary channels.
Gabby Bell, I actually like Gabby Bell.
I love Drew Gooden.
Love Drew Gooden, Danny Curtis, Jarvis.
I do know some of these people, but it's interesting. Oh, Noah's on the list. No, you made
Noah's right there.
Tara Mooney.
Oh, my favorite white boy up there. Good for you. Good for you. Noah. You got
I don't know who is Coon Can Dassner. Who is that?
Who?
Coon, right? Coon Can Dassner gets a dot from Noah.
I mean, this is like. I need to find the paper.
I do know him. I don't know why. I never said his name out loud before.
Well, hold up.
You get a whole bold section.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
There was a paper. I need to find it.
Wow, like everything points to
Tara
Mooney.
Alex Jones, like Pipeline or something like that. But somebody did a research paper, looking at the overlapping audiences of various right-wing / center figures, and it looked almost like this. And it was making the exact point that these people associate with each other for a reason. Alex Jones associates with certain people for a particular reason, right? Joe Rogan has all these people on, and that leads to Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson leads you to Stefan Molyneux, and now you over in the alt-right. Now you over here doing even more overtly racist, like fascist shit. That's just how social networks, like not social network in the grand sense, but that's just how social networks function.
And to assume that like they don't like each other, like the idea that like, oh, they're so abhorrent, there's no way that, like, I feel like it comes from the idea that like, oh, there's no way Tucker Carlson or Adam Jones really believes the stuff that they believe, or that they believe the people that they put on. I think that's not giving them enough credit, and that they're friends because they share like-minded opinions about things.
I mean, they may not even be friends. That really don't even matter.
Well, right,
The point is they associate with each other publicly on purpose.
Right.
That is exactly why Nick Fuentes was on Alex Jones. That is exactly why Ye went up there on Tucker Carlson. That is why they were doing that. That is the point of doing that.
It's like really weird to me that there's like a lot of Black people on the video essays.
About to say that.
So she does know that we like Black video essays exist, but then when she talks about the left, like it just kind of seems like it's, I don't know, it's like stuff that doesn't.
Are
feel
they
like
saying
it
they're not
include us.
friends? Maybe
that's a good point, though. I'm glad you said that because that's a good
Like
point.
a lot of this criticism, I don't know, it's really frustrating because at the beginning of the video she's like there's leftists and centrists and people on the right, and she's like, I'm not going to just define them, I'm going to write it in the description. And I wish she had defined them, because as I'm watching this video, I'm like, I actually don't know who she's talking about at times. Like, I know that there's like the online left, and I have a picture of that, but we all have different pictures of what that is. And it's interesting here because there actually are a lot of Black content creators, which surprises me because a lot of people don't think of Black people when they think of the online left. And so it does make me wonder if this video that she posted is like just a critique of, like, I guess.
Well, to me, it obviously is a critique of the white left, right? Because like that's everything she said that's valid, especially is a white leftist issue. It's inherent to the overwhelming whiteness of the online left. So to see my name in bold, and Fab Socialism, and T1J, and Khadijah in bold, like,
oh, look at that,
right?
You made it, girl.
And so it's like to me, to know that we're out here, and act like. So are we included in the critique in this video? Basically what you just said, Laura, right? Like, should we not even be responding? Should I have hit up Thought Slime and said, yo, your girl out here wilding. You got 24 hours to respond. You know what I'm saying? And that's no shade to Thought Slime. I'm just saying, like,
I'm followed by Monday.
Right. Her critiques. But her critiques, like when I mentioned earlier, you know, the philosophy tubes and the ContraPoints and the bigger figures in the online left being white, that was because her critiques, if they fit somewhere, they fit on the whiteness of the left. And so to see this list, which also doesn't include the debate streamers, I guess Mr. Beard is there. Is the Mr. Beard a debate guy?
I feel like there's a footnote about it, like at the bottom, that like the time is covering up. But I feel like it's also telling that they put like a Drew Gooden, Dallin Gonzalez, like these like comedic commentary people, because they don't make, like Chad might, but like Drew Gooden and Jarvis don't make explicitly leftist or political content. So it's like, it's more like that's like a vibe check of saying like, well, yeah, of course they're left-leaning commentary people, which I think is deserving of a.
She could have fit on that. She could have been on that list.
Exactly.
She could have been on the same list.
On the same list, especially a couple of months ago. You know, before this started getting more crystallized. So I don't know. Moving on. We ready to move on? I don't want to cut nobody's thoughts off.
You go.
I just want to know who's Mr. Beard. Did anybody know that?
I don't know. I don't know. And I'm not
saying,
even
like,
trying.
where's Big Joel or H Bomber guy? Like, it's so interesting to me. It's like those are the people that I always thought of as like the left. I don't know.
I don't want to go too far chest on this, but here's what I first thought when I saw the chart was that when you think about a viewer, I'll say a viewer like me, right? Because I started watching video essays in like 2020, 2021. I'm sure they existed, right? But like a lot of people, once the pandemic hit, I discovered I liked long form YouTube media all of a sudden. And I feel like when you came in, because that was also the point when Khadijah and there was a big push for a lot of creators of color. If you're coming into it now, your actual perspective is like, here are all these these white commentator vloggers that I love, the Dannys, the Jarvises, the Jordan Ikais or whatever. And then like, oh, I'm also watching Khadijah Mimboe, FD, Foreign, TJ1. And you're actually not watching the ContraPoints in the philosophy tube, because that's a little weird. Like, they're dressing up, like they're talking about Schumer and like big philosophy and stuff like that. So you're not there yet, unlike BreadTube 1, which is coming through H-Bomber Guy.
I don't know. I don't want to spend too much time criticizing a chart that she just sat down and put together.
I'm not even criticizing it. I'm just like, I should say,
this is not even
maybe we did win in that way,
but mostly trying to. I'm sure. I imagine that she'll respond to this if I put it out, which I don't know if I will. I don't know. Or she might be watching and responding right now. For all I know,
I'm just fascinated. Someone knows that Black people exist. I'm like, what? That never happened. You know what I'm saying? Like no one knows that like we're here. You know what I'm saying? Like everyone, people like think of the online left. They're like, oh yeah, like the same 5 white people. But I was just surprised. I was like, oh, like she included Black people, and that made me think a little bit.
But thank you for saying that, Lua, because that brings up a point that I've wanted to make on several of her points that I forgot, and Bellamy kind of she engaged with it too. Is that so much of this is algorithmically based and bigger than us, right? So she made a point earlier. Oh, I forgot. I wanted to play that segment when she talked about how the left had a lot of white people until the 80s, and then suddenly the left sold out the people it had and just became more neoliberal. And she doesn't know. I don't know if she said she didn't know what happened, or she said something that happened. Whatever she said, it didn't include fucking COINTELPRO and the CIA and McCarthy and the McCarthy initiatives. You know what I'm saying? She didn't talk about. So if we want to ask why is the left tube or the online left is so white, it's a long, deep conversation that I'm going to make into a video maybe in March. But the short version is, when you let the left be too non-white visibly, shit might get done. Shit gets dangerous to the status quo. Right? It gets scary. When the Black Panthers were arming themselves, when hippies were robbing banks and bombing government buildings with Black people and Asians and the Rainbow Coalition, when that shit was happening in the 60s and 70s, because actual leftist ideology was in the working class, including the Black working class, shit got real, so they deaded that shit. Real. Right?
Shit got real.
That is why by the 80s, the left became the Democrats, because that was all the power they had left. And by the 90s, the Democrats became the Republicans, and the Republicans became fascists. You know what I'm saying? Under Clinton. So bringing that back, the algorithm is a reflection of that. This is why I always there's a constant undertone in my content of like, is this going to be the video that ends my career? Because I know I'm not supposed to be here.
It's fucking weird, right? Not for real though, because like that's what's funny about it for me too. Because because what Lil Bill said, Lil Billiam, I see you with your big ass head. Did it. Let me stop.
Stop. Too insider. What is it you were saying? I wanted to hear this.
Oh shit! Hold up. I almost lost consciousness. Yo, that shit was too funny. Yo, they called him DMX. All right, but if you go out and you get involved in leftist circles, the people you're gonna find, and I guarantee you, one of the first people you're gonna find is gonna be a Black woman.
Right.
You're gonna see us everywhere. I know there's urban farms all over the city of Philadelphia. I can go to any one of them urban farms, and I guarantee you it is a majority Black people. Because we the ones doing shit.
Right. But are you still there, Bellamy? I don't know if you cut off or if you just paused.
Yeah, I'm here. You hear me? You hear me?
Yeah. I didn't want to cut you off.
You good. I stopped.
Yeah. The online left though is and I say this reflecting on myself, right? Aside from the white part, the online left discovered, like before, people discovered leftist politics through direct engagement and action with working class like activity. She says that, and that is true. And much of its power was gleaned from white working class people and just like actual grassroots leftist activities. When the McCarthy era killed everybody or put everybody in jail or made everybody run for their lives to other country, all of that shit became housed within academia where it could be curated for the least dangerous information to be reproduced and given to create academics, right? And the YouTube reflects that, is all I'm trying to say. The algorithm reflects that. And like I blew up because I did a very safe, very widely appreciated video on all of fucking Bo Burnham. You know what I'm saying? And no shade to Bo Burnham, but like that is the algorithm said, hey, this nigga can do some moderate liberalism. So give him a shot. And like every video after that, if you're paying attention, I sneak more and more shit in there. And every time I'm like, them numbers looking good though. Fuck, I'm gonna keep going.
Didn't catch,
you know what I'm saying? Right. And as soon as them numbers start looking bad, it's the white rapper video. As soon as them numbers start looking bad.
Oh no.
Case of emergency.
But also, I'm sorry, but no, the other point I want to make is that the reason why LeftTube is able to exist is because of the Dunk video. She alludes to this at certain times, how we keep making these videos that focus on identity politics. In the debunk video, everybody has a Jordan Peterson video. If you want to get on, it's like pledging or getting jumped in the game. You want to get on LeftTube, you got to make your Jordan Peterson video. Gang.
Jumped in the game.
You know what I'm saying? And that's because the algorithm appreciates that, because that brings eyeballs, because that reflects the biases and interests of the status quo enough to make your content viable if it's good. So this idea, I'm rambling and lost the train of thought. That's gonna be edited into some eloquent ass shit, though. I guarantee you. Let's move on.
I got
they don't know.
Go ahead, Tayo. No, I got where you were going.
Stop, Bellamy. Go ahead, Tayo.
No. I was just saying that I got where you were going.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Tayo.
I'm sorry. Moving on.
Years to evolve, to be rectified, to be discussed, to be rediscussed. When I watch left-leaning YouTubers who collaborate with each other, it's all laughing, it's all fun, it's all laughing at the other side, at something stupid that the right has done, etc. There's hardly any real hard-hitting discussions about ideas on the left, about macroeconomics, about macro politics, about the world and society and the place of the left within it. What can be done about the current state of the world, the current situation that we find ourselves in? The clique serves nobody but the individuals involved when it comes.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to move on.
Wait, what? How is your argument both that like the left is both detached but also unwilling to deal with existential problems? So it's like, pick which one. Either they're detached because they're too busy worried about themselves, which you could say is evidenced by the fact that like a lot of non-online left people are doing like the groundwork, or that they are ivory tower academics types who are, which is the actual comment here more about the online left, right? That we're only focused on like how to solve all of hunger or like all of the government instead of like how to just get people milk.
Right.
So I feel like that's a contradiction right there.
To give like to be charitable, I think I agree with her overall point she's trying to make about the online left's preoccupation with nurturing the community, which like I don't think is a bad thing. Like I don't think it's bad that all of us weirdos found each other and fucking love each other. Like, that's
useful. Blew my mind. Like, the left just has too many friends. I'm like, what?
I want to be friends with the people I'm in community. I mean, look, you can be in community with people you don't like, and that's regular, right? But I want to be friends with what you mean.
Yeah. But I think what she's trying to say is what else are y'all doing? Which is again a lack of
what else are we all doing? Like, what do you mean? Like, there's just like so I guess she's probably talking about the online love specifically, but it's just like there's just like so much happening and going on that people are doing, and it's just just kind of blows my mind a little bit. But I get like how she's trying to criticize like people online, and then like how it's like hard to criticize your friends. I mean, on a personal level, like I'm I think more honest with my friends. Yeah. Where I'm like, well, I need to like, not brutal honesty, because you can be honest and not be brutal, but like, especially if you're my friend, is like, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about how you said something that may be a little bit racist or hurtful, because I want to continue being friends with you. So I'm gonna bring it up.
And we have those conversations. We don't make content out of that shit.
Nope.
At least we don't. And no, they don't either, to be real, because I know some of them have had beef and they talk about it behind the scenes, but we're not making content or having Twitter spats with motherfuckers we are really in community with. That's happening between, 2 or 3 debate streamers and some of us. And that should happen less as well. But like, I'm not gonna make like I'm put myself on blast. Foreign Man did not appreciate my slander of fucking Sidney Poitier. He was like, yo, you got Sidney Poitier all wrong. I was trying to do a Caribbean word there. Don't see. Then he gonna hit me up for real. Be like, hey, you know about that shit too. See, that would happen through this directly. If he makes a video, like, I'm gonna be in it where he talks about it. We're gonna discuss it on content maybe, but not like drama between friends as content. You know what I mean? I want to get to her. I want to get to this thing where she tried, because this is where I knew this was the most mask off moment to me for the transphobia.
I ain't seen this yet. I might hit the mute.
And I really fucking hate him now because I grew up and it took me a while to realize how bigoted he is.
I'll just read.
All right, so this is well, you'll follow along.
The back and forth between Tara McNee and another subscriber before commenting on it specifically. They, Abba and Preach, love going after trans people, so it's a no from me. The idea that Tara thinks Abba and Preach are transphobic is giving me cognitive dissonance, because I like some of her content, but that take is way off. But it is what it is. Are you kidding? Not at all, Tara. It's fine though. I can concede that a difference in opinion is bound to happen. I couldn't get the screenshot, but Tara began to list some titles from Abba and Preach content. Another dog whistling title: trans woman enters female bathroom and this happened. They know what they're doing. Trying to bait a transphobic reactionary audience is transphobia. Stop pretending it isn't, good lord. If someone were to title a video, "Woman protesters lost it," and proceeds to show woman losing it, that is acting out, yelling, etc., I wouldn't say they are automatically woman haters. It's ignorant to assume anything that shows trans people in a bad light is automatically transphobic. And Tara didn't respond. I find this interaction fascinating and also an example of the problem which I see with the left when it comes to such issues. If you watch Abba and Preach's content, they most definitely are not transphobic. They are very pro-trans rights, trans individuals, but they're also very understanding and very sympathetic toward the concerns which are raised by women, biological women, and by feminists.
All right, so
you're right. That was a
and I went on record. I'll go on record again. I find value in what Abba and Preach do, despite its many issues, because it's kind of like. But I know I'm safer from the consequences of what they do, and I have a heightened sensitivity and desire for some of the positive results that they can yield. That said, these niggas be transphobic.
they was transphobic in that thing that they was talking about earlier when they was talking about what they was talking about, the taking spots away from women. In women's sports, yeah. Like, sir, number one. All right, so first of all, the fact that there's this weird thing that people like to do when it comes to trans people, say that we don't acknowledge biology. I'm taking hormones for a reason. What do you mean?
Right.
But also, Mia Mulder made a video looking at this specific issue. So if you want somebody that's trans, that has looked at the available science, all the evidence, and looked at it and gave you a really good nuanced take on the situation, go watch Mia Mulder's video on trans women in sports. I think she did that really well.
For these Negroes to say that a trans woman, think of the last part of that sentence, that word there, is taking a spot away from a woman, is ridiculous, because you're a woman and you're treated. Now we could talk about whether sports should be divided up by gender or by ability. That's a whole nother conversation. But if you're a trans woman, right, and you're competing at these levels, you're already meeting whatever standards these places have set for you, which, by the way, excludes some cis black women, right? We're talking about Caster Semenya, who got pushed out because she has, quote unquote, too high testosterone because of just how her body works. That's a cis woman that is disallowed from participating in her sport that she's been participating in basically her entire life, because
of the specific rules that have been put in place. So to say that that's not transphobic, like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because what do you mean? There are trans women who are competing in sports and don't win a damn thing ever, who barely qualify. We just had, who was the trans woman that was competing in lifting. Yeah. If trans women now if trans women had some sort of a biological advantage, right? And it's gonna and it might necessarily be like what you call it, like competition specific, right? Because you don't lose your height, you don't lose your arm length and stuff like that. But Mia Mulder talked about that. Go watch her video. If you retain some significant biological advantage, it wouldn't have took that long. Trans people have been competing in the Olympics for however long now. It wouldn't have took that long.
At least openly in the NCAA, I know it started in the early.
Yeah,
2000s.
and Jess what is her name? She the white woman. She's trans and she does MMA. No, she does MMA. She gets her ass whooped all the time. She's constantly getting her ass whooped.
And they keep showing the one article where she beat somebody, and don't keep showing that she keeps getting her ass whooped in MMA. Yeah.
She gets beat the fuck up constantly. So what do you mean?
Yeah, but
Sorry,
but even
chat, just really fast. Like the chat just keeps on saying like messed up stuff about like I don't know. I'm just thinking of like the chat just kept on like saying that like I don't know, like talking about like British women or things like that.
British,
like Termini's also British, so I just like throw that out there. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. It's Brit. I think they're getting at that. I guess the UK, the only thing we have over them in terms of like identity issues is that the transness is the transphobia is like much more institutionalized there, and that's why we often get. I hate to say it, but like my antenna went up for transphobic stuff as it started happening because Kidology was British. Like that was one of the first places my mind went when I started becoming more critical and stopped just being admiring the eloquence and the analysis. But I want to get into her argument here. So like, because she says that they're not transphobic and that you can tell they really care about trans people, but they just care about ordinary people. And they kind of go through a spiel here about, not understanding the sports stuff and yada, yada, yada. And then she comes back and I'm gonna let her come back.
In personal views, I don't even need you to agree with me. Let's just get this shit right. I'm not here to go send you the sensitivity training. That's not what here. Do your transactions and bitch be gone.
Overall, they add a particular kind of nuance to the conversation. Whether you agree with it or not is irrelevant to the fact that they are in no way anti-trans individuals or anti-trans rights. And I think for Tara to instinctively label them transphobic and to then insinuate that this individual is somehow peddling to transphobes or to a transphobic perspective by actually agreeing with Abba and Preach or by having a different opinion is really not where we want to be, I think, in politics, or at least not where the left wants to be insofar as persuading individuals, insofar as doing the labor necessary in order to really get people on board with how it perceives and sees the world. The idea.
So something about this feels ahistorical, like because it ignores
it's
the
sanitized,
fact,
yeah,
right? The fact that like Abba and Preach have like
they've deleted their own videos because they said this shit was too. At least, well, I've read that because his deleted videos. I can't quite tell. I don't know their library like that, but my understanding is they've deleted their own videos before because they've been like, maybe we went too far with this one, or this is not a good look.
So that means they've even like done this could be a good story if Abba and Preach had certain opinions, heard the backlash, look at the copious amounts of Twitter threads or comments or links that's been sent to them on the topic, and then like modified their position, and then Kidology says that, right? But I feel like she would have to admit that they were transphobic to begin with.
But there's also this like weird because like it's weird to see a black woman doing this because I know she understands this. Like she has had this experience. People can be nice to you and say they care about you and still be fucking racist.
Yeah, it's definitely nice transphobia is what they do. It's just like nice racism. It's I don't see color, but also these political movements that want to kill you, I don't have a problem with. That's what it comes down.
That's what I'm saying. Like
that's it.
It just doesn't, like, you got to look at this is what I was bringing up earlier. Most people don't know how to recognize this stuff because they're not trained to, and that's not her fault, right? Like she grew up in the society she grew up in, and that ain't necessarily on her, but like you need to learn to listen for these things. It's like black folk. The analogy I use is like black folks who use microaggressions, right? And Wine and Chill said, and I agree with it. Like I don't really like the concept of microaggressions. It's just an aggression, but you use it. It's like a check engine light, right? It's this feeling like I can't really tell you exactly what this is, but something don't feel right, and it's a clue because you have a lifetime of experience that tells you, hold up, wait, this ain't right. Something don't smell right here, right?
Right.
Something ain't right in the water.
Yeah, that's how we all kind of got off of her. In terms of like really fucking with where she stands, because we all started to hear the dog whistles. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, like there was a moment where I don't remember what video it was.
Hey, Feek, put the chat on slow mode.
Yeah, I'm going to that now, and I don't know. It should already be on slow mode, but let me double check. So y'all jump in while I try to fix.
There's like 2,000 people in here, so
I think slow mode just may not make a difference.
It may not. It just may not be working. Or may not make enough of a difference.
Anybody can jump in while I'm figuring that out, though.
Derek.
Stop. Slow mo. Oh no, slow mo wasn't on. My bad.
Oh shit.
Okay, now slow mode is on.
Slow mode on. All right, bet.
Slow mode is on.
Bet. My bad, little Bill. I fucks with you. You know that. You know it's all love. You know it's all.
So, but yeah, this is night. What I've been preached do, and this is why I wanted to talk about this, because this is a normie perspective on gender issues, where they don't have a active perception of bigotry. They just know that this thing I see is opposing the hegemonic frames and understandings of the world that I am comfortable and see as normal and appropriate. And so I'm not going to like actively try to destroy that thing, but if somebody comes up behind me and wants to destroy it, I'm going to be like, well, they should both be able to speak their mind. You know what I'm saying? And like that Abin Preach, what they do is they know they have an audience of predominantly, I don't know, 15 to 25-year-old males, and that males are brought up in a patriarchal society to see anything that is, you know, anti-masculine, whatever, or gender non-normative as wrong, and it's easy to get them to glue to the TV with trans antagonistic nonsense. Because there are stories out there. Fallon Fox is again another example. So that's a story that is literally like 8 years old now, but it is still in circulation in social media, because every time it pops up, it gets clicks because people have a deeply rooted antagonism towards transness. And when you actively pursue that and you use it for clicks and it spreads negative sentiment towards trans people, that is transphobic. I don't care if you say directly.
Yeah.
Like this, it's kind of like Trump voters that say, I'm not, you know, I don't have any issues with black people. If you voted for fucking Donald Trump, you're racist. I don't care your reason why. What you're saying to me is that your genuine actions around my safety does not take my safety into account.
Right.
And politics is what you do. It ain't what you believe. You know what I mean? Like you could believe, like it's kind of both, right? Because what you believe impacts what you do, but you do politics. Yeah. Like your actions have impacts on the world. That's politics. It ain't like I don't care what words you say. If I look at your behavior, if I look at the outcome of what you've done, that's what you are.
Right.
Which is funny because that next section is about how like apparently the online left doesn't do that and instead likes to extract people, which I actually do agree with it a little bit, right? That, you know, we're better with like archetypes and tropes than we are with like lived experience. But
and she's again critiquing the white leftist creators who, you know, like I don't want the reason why I started my channel was because I noticed that nobody, like I said in the fucking Black Panther video, motherfuckers didn't understand Black Panther. All my favorite people didn't understand it. And then when I thought about it, not only was that okay for me, but I didn't want them to do the thing I wanted to do, because it shouldn't be white people speaking or cis people the specific experiences at this scale. I should have a spot to speak about my own experience. So like, she's right, and that's a problem, but it's also like bigger than their content. Their content can only do what it's possible for it to do. Freaking Mooncat should continue to dunk on niggas. She's good at it. She does a lot of research, breaks shit down, and she hits that shit. Elbow in the rim. I want her to do that.
He said elbow in the rim.
Elbow in the rim, Vince Carter style. I don't want Mooncat to do a video on Pan-Africanism.
Hell
you know
no.
what I'm saying? That would piss me off.
That would piss me off.
Yeah.
Mooncat, if you listen, and don't do that shit.
Don't do that. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like there was one more major thing, and then we can start wrapping up. That was in here.
Like there's something I want to add to the point also of like talking about like transphobia or things like that. Like, I think this kind of ties in a little bit. Like, I don't think like being transphobic or racism or things like that, like, I think the idea of like being a good or bad person is like really unhelpful. Like, there's like all these ways that we hurt each other without meaning to. And what it comes down to is trying to understand what those ways are and like not hurt each other. And so she kind of just like frames things as like, oh, like we're just calling people transphobic left and right. And like that hurts people, makes them feel uncomfortable. But I think if we could just like get past the idea of like being good or bad in some sort of like binary and maybe focus on like how like we're relating to each other and like how we can take care of each other, it's like a completely different conversation. So I think, I don't know, maybe that was kind of random, but
no, it's not. But I think it's hard to get there if like you don't. I think it's hard to get there in the current cultural framework, or like especially like in the individualist way we can kind of be taught to see one another. Because in order to have that conversation, I think, because a slight random aside, but this reminds me of like a conversation I was having with my sisters, and like we were trying to have a heart to heart, and I realized our breaking point was like, I need to be able to be comfortable enough to like disagree with my sister about a singular point in the bigger argument for us to like get there. And that actually takes a bunch of trust. Right. And the reason why it took us so long to talk was because anytime we were talking, I was like, I'm arguing, I'm fighting. I can't give up any singular point. And like, this goes bigger than just debate bros and arguing. I'm talking about like a relationship, right? I feel like I can concede any part of my identity or viewpoint, even in the moment, because I feel like I'm being kept track of. I don't feel that way with my friends, right? I can get something wrong. I get stuff wrong here, and I can be corrected, and we can move on. But I think that's one of the bigger struggles we're facing right now. Peace out. Like, there's a bunch of philosophies that are like, trust yourself, and the left is like, please trust your support system and continue to grow it. And we probably could do a better job of convincing people. I don't know how, but
it doesn't help that, and this is where part of where my video, a video adjacent to kind of what she's getting at here, gets into. We have what the left needs to acknowledge is that we have a carceral mentality toward social issues and like public shaming. And like, if she had hit that like on the head, I'd have really celebrated that. She gets at it, I think. But Brody Chanel did a better job a couple of weeks ago. In that we have monetized our outrage against bigotry, which is a dangerous thing that we've done to ourselves within capitalism, right? You know what I'm saying? And that's the critique of a Mooncat or whomever, is that while we want and need those videos to be viable, to spread information, to take our minds off some shit, to let me know we're not alone when we're looking at these issues, the double-edged sword is that becomes all we're understood as to normies. Especially when the right peddles that rhetoric of the left trying to cancel everybody. You know what I'm saying? That the right says the left is trying to cancel everybody, and then the algorithm refuses to give St. Altruism another 500,000 impressions on YouTube, right?
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I think I'm gonna push back a little bit, but then I think I got points to agree with you, because the quote unquote, like, I don't know if I would call it a carceral mentality, but it does serve a social function. It is a governance structure, right? It is like, this behavior is unacceptable, with the caveat that I do think there's an issue of, like, quote unquote moral superiority on the left, where some people don't actually want to do their politics. They want to feel like they're doing their politics, and they want to feel better about that.
Yeah.
So I do think there is I think it's like, it's kind of like a both and, right? Like, two things in tension. I do think there is an issue, especially when it comes to like allies who make it an issue of moral superiority, where they want to go out there and want to dunk on somebody to feel better about themselves. So they ain't actually got to do shit. But I do also think that there's a governance structure, a means of telling people this behavior is unacceptable, that does need to be there. And a lot of times I'm seeing people like conflate those two things, and there probably is some overlap back and forth, but it's two different things happening, and identifying which thing it is in that moment is really difficult.
Yeah, that's a new frontier that I think is coming, because like we got on, and now we got to refine that particular function, because that's the Beyonce of the group on the left too. And so we're at crazy in love Beyonce, and we got to get to Beyonce when it comes to like accountability, governance, and like creating pathways to let it be known that certain behavior is unacceptable.
Right. And a lot of that issue too is like, where this stuff happens, it isn't a community.
Right.
You can't call somebody in to just call them in and be like, look, we need to talk about this. The group can't call you in and be like, we need to talk about this. That's just this like social performance, right? And it's not a community, it's just social performance.
Right. So that reminds me of one of the last thing I wanted to get at. I don't know where it's at in the video, but she touches on what the discourse du jour was this week, which was like the left's failure to attract men and boys. I wish, does anybody know?
That's minute 50.
Okay.
It was in my notes. I did want to talk that. Yeah, because that has the last point that I really wanted to talk about, or I guess action points. Yeah, but you can play it.
Capitalism being the issue of patriarchy, being the issue of racism, things which are well and good in theoretical feminism and feminist rhetoric. And don't come after me, I am a feminist. Coming from. Hello, editing me once again. Since the arrest of Andrew Tate, I have been thinking about this quite thoroughly. On Twitter and on YouTube, it is very apparent that the left doesn't know how to talk about masculinity, nor to give masculinity a positive voice. And I think this not knowing how to talk about masculinity stems from the fear, the very modern fear of masculinity among the left, particularly stemming from feminism and feminist rhetoric. And don't come after me, I am a feminist. But there are very important things to consider when it comes to feminism and it comes to the online left's fixation with, as I said, micro issues such as those that I have referenced, or reducing everything to systematic factors such as being the issue of capitalism, being the issue of patriarchy, being the issue of racism, things which are well and good in theoretical terms. But when it comes to individuals navigating their lives day to day nonchalantly, these theoretical terms and notions of systemic issues or micro issues are pretty inane. Contrary to the online left, the rhetoric of reactionaries or essentialist ideas about the world are very accessible. They're also pretty welcoming, and they address something that I think we can see most definitely with modern masculinity. Great neglect of men and modern men and socializing and the socialization of modern men, mutual respect for the concerns and issues surrounding and involving men, tolerance and understanding for masculinity and men growing up in this world, as well as anxiety. Examples such as Andrew Tate are interesting instances of how reactionary politics can offer practical responses to the cost of living, to masculinity, to a society which fixates on appearances, on the physical, on sex, to globalization, to multiculturalism, especially for those who are increasingly being left behind and ignored, not just by society in general, but specifically by the left. Reactionary politics is very good at framing itself.
All right, so I don't know when she says it. I think you get the gist of where she's going with this. So she says at a point in this section that young men are unaliving themselves at rates higher than anyone, like ridiculous rates, which is true.
Yes.
And this is again why I thought it was important to engage with this, because this is a normie take when you have, you know, a passive engagement with, you know, the tagline of a story, right? You see the what is that called? Like
the byline.
The byline of a story. So that is a known thing, right? Before she gets there, she starts off by talking about the left reduces men's issues to systemic issues. And here is where I have a big problem with this critique. The reason, and this is well studied, this is a well-studied understanding of the unaliving epidemic. The main reason for unaliving in America and the UK is money. It's joblessness, it's poverty, it's despair when people are being chewed up and spit out by a capitalist system. And that's kind of the difference between leftists and everybody else is other people are like, make a jobs program or some shit, right? We're like, the system requires that these boys are in despair because the system requires losers. Right. And we aren't going to make these boys happy until we address this system. Now, the point about interpersonal-ish things for men and like, you know, the running, the thing I got from a lot of this discourse was part of what people are talking about is just teaching some of these young boys and men on the left how to talk to women, how to partner in relationships, how to engage around these things, etc. That is a valid critique, but also misses the forest from the trees. Because yes, that is absent from the widespread oeuvre of left tube content. And again, that's because the algorithm controls what's being seen.
It's plenty of people. Fantastic Fox is a real person.
Fantastic Fox is a real person.
As being there in order to help people, as well as attracting the
multiple leftist creators have made content around that. They're smaller creators, and some of them are not that small, but their content still didn't get seen because that's not something that has a widespread attraction by the population we're trying to talk to.
Alki with a based opinion in the chat.
Yes, and then she kind of gets at this idea, and this is something I heard other people say, that Andrew Tate and Jordan Peterson, and she's a big Jordan Peterson fan, are popular because they offer self-help advice, yada, yada, yada. And that is not true. Andrew Tate, Jordan Peterson, and the big one I like to talk about, Kevin Samuels, these were people that were not known at all at the scale they're known now. They were not known at all. Yes, Andrew Tate was a successful pornographer and pimp. Yes, Jordan Peterson was a college professor and wrote a couple of books. Yes, Kevin Samuels wasn't successful ever in his fucking life, actually. So I won't do that for him. But all these motherfuckers were unknown at the scale they are now until misogyny came into their content, until transphobia came into their content, until misogynoir and Kevin Samuels specifically came into their content. And when they did that, they were attaching themselves, they were attaching the self-help elements that they did have that nobody fucking cared about, because the algorithm doesn't really care about helping young men and boys. Nobody does within that realm. None of that shit was enough to make them famous. But when they started with the patriarchy and the misogyny, the powers that the underlying grooming that all people go through, when they started saying, you know why you're so unhappy, feminists, black people, black women, Jews, whatever, that's an easy cookie to bite into. And like when people leave that out of, when people say the left isn't doing enough, what they don't realize they're saying is the left doesn't have enough misogyny to attract enough boys.
We haven't figured out a misogynist way to be progressive yet. And
it's a few things, right? Because this is the problem. One of the problems with misinformation, right? Misinformation works because people want to be misinformed because it reinforces their worldview, right? If it didn't give you something, you wouldn't take it. You would discard it. You wouldn't pay it any mind, right? So that's one of the issues here, right? Because those men that are in Andrew Tate's audience want to be in Andrew Tate's audience. It's not that they're just there by accident. They didn't just get roped in. Nobody threw a lasso around them and tied them up like like in a Western or nothing. They want to be there. That's why they're there. They wouldn't be there otherwise.
Right.
There's also the issue of like, doing more outreach, and like, no, we don't need to do more I do think we need to do better outreach. And Michael Hobbs on Twitter had posted a pretty reasonable criticism, right? Because instead of making this high-minded stuff, he's saying that you need to make entertaining things and then bake your values into them. Abbott Elementary is a great example of that, right? Making something funny as hell, real good, and then baking some values into it, so then people see like, oh, okay, this is another like way of being. And then also that like fear of masculinity is two parts. One, people get SA'd. So, and think about who does SA and who doesn't, generally speaking. So let's talk about that. But two, there's no like real fear of masculinity. And if there is one, it's not at cis men, it's at trans men, especially if they're black. Talk to a black trans man sometime and tell you, he'll tell you how many times he's going to get painted as this angry ass black man, this dangerous black man. And that's true for black men and for cis black men too, just in general. That's true for black people. But if we're talking about masculinity and men specifically, like that's a thing for that group of people specifically. There's no fear of masculinity. People love masculinity. I love masculinity. I wasn't able to access my masculinity until I started taking estrogen. There's plenty of people over here that love masculinity. Plenty of people over here trying to do their own thing, figure their own shit out. It's just like what you said, these algorithms and thus the people that are doing it. Because if you ask me, YouTube's algorithms is a mirror. It doesn't reward that content because people not looking for it. They don't want it.
No. Right. Yeah. And that like it's not a matter of better. So is there ways to make better content that is undeniable to the algorithm? Sure. And there are like there are plenty of it's harder, but definitely you can't make low effort content like a 5-second TikToks calling women sluts over and over again and then become a thought leader like that. We can't do that. We don't have that repertoire. We don't have the support to make that happen. We are trying to break a hegemonic hold of thought on society as a whole, which means we can't pull upon tropes that people are comfortable and already invested in to just suddenly manifest support for boys. I get so many comments that are literally FD, I really like your content, but I wish you were more misogynistic. Like that's basically what the comment is. And that's basically what the comment is, because it's always like you need to hold women accountable. You need to tell these black women the truth. You need to da-da-da-da. And it's like, what do you mean? What is the truth? Accountable to what? To niggas? To patriarchy? Like, and Bellamy will tell you, I be skirting the line around masculinity. I be trying my hardest to hold niggas, trying my hardest to not throw away certain aspects of masculine movements that I think are valuable and needed. And it still is not enough to skyrocket that type of rhetoric into the Andrew Tate sphere. Now, of course, I could be more entertaining, I'm sure, but the bottom line is right now, if I became fucking Levin Samuels, I'd have 2 million. If I started He-Man Woman Hating content on B-Sides channel, it would have 2 million subscribers by the end of the year. I guarantee you. And that's not because I would have better ideas or I'd be trying harder to reach boys or I'd be less scared of feminism. It's because I'd be using the master's tools to not even break down the master's house, just to build my own fucking house in the master's neighborhood.
Their framework, their template. It's I think I saw somebody say in the chat that like there's also this tension in like progressive ideology or like in leftist thought that like it's a live and let live. It's an acceptance of different lifestyles, but masculinity at its core is about a rigidity, about like a core structure of how to be a man. And I feel that in like I feel like my high school self feels that, where if I was 16 now, I'd be like, do I take this thing that is saying do X, Y, and Z and I'll get a result? Or do I take this much more nuanced, like philosophical approach that's like, oh man, don't worry, girls will like you eventually. or like, don't worry, like you're gonna get money eventually. You just gotta wait for the economic tides to turn or something like that, which is true, which is what the right isn't telling you. But what I was thinking from what Belly Bay said and what Fika is saying about this algorithm, right, is this idea that like, yeah, we have the harder job of making entertaining. We have to be Abbott Elementary while they get to be Fox News, and that is frustrating, right? But you know,
twice as much.
I mean, I also want to point out that like I really like it. Like I personally prefer like reaching like people of all sorts of different genders like with my content, and I really prefer that. And so it's just kind of frustrating because a lot of times like men will like hate me, or they'll be like, wow, you're like so vulnerable, that's like the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. It's just like, I actually would really like to be able to have men in these spaces, but like they think I'm gross because I'm like vulnerable all the time. So it's like when people like put like the blame on people like me for like not being able to reach men when I actually would really like to, but they just don't take me seriously. It's a bit frustrating to hear that.
Yeah, and then you have the woman therapist way back when that story was out there, who, you know, I think she did several things wrong, right? But like tactically speaking, because what she was trying to do was speak to men in the language that men tend to listen to each other in, right? And instead of like being like, I feel you, sister, go off, it was like, how dare you do that to us? And it's like, well, what do we want? What do we want? Because right now, if Khadijah's video,
whole videos, like the last 5 that they did. What you mean?
Yes, Khadijah's video, several videos around empathizing, engaging with men and masculinity, and really, so to be fair, Khadijah's video was aimed toward walking a lot of films through recognizing the gaps in analysis that we've had around men, and trying to make it a better place for men to come and get this work, right? And like motherfuckers made a hate video about the shit.
They got so mad at them for giving them some space.
Yeah, you know,
like that was that the response to there blew my mind, because like, what do you mean they're being as accommodating to you as I feel? It's like fucking human possible given the circumstances, and they still got mad. Like what? So what do you mean you're not doing outreach? Like, yeah, they are. We are doing outreach. It's already happening. I'm already talking to the people in my life. Like it.
But they want us to reach out with misogyny. They want us to reach out with misogyny. This idea, you know. So the argument is a lot of young boys and men are being groomed, and we have to acknowledge that, right? But that doesn't mean we don't have I don't know, what's the drug you do if you're addicted to heroin and that's like a methadone. We don't have this methadone to like slowly to like give you a replacement drug for patriarchy or misogyny while you get away from. We don't have that. If I figure it out, I'll let y'all know. But until then, we are not going to have, you know, misogynistic content geared towards men. It's just not going to be there. And that's what the right is giving. They're not giving care. But Andrew Tate and not Jordan Peterson, I'll give him that. He coddles the fuck out of insults. But Andrew Tate and Kevin Samuels used to clown these motherfuckers. Clowned them, like talked about them like dirt. That was their shtick. It didn't matter because they weren't there for really help. The help they wanted was more patriarchy, not mental wellness. That was the last thing of the video that I had in mind. And we're going on 2.5 hours. And I don't know
we covered a lot of ground. It's a lot of shit, man. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
There's just one thing I want to add. It's more like a footnote. So like people will give the statistic that men commit like suicide at higher rates. I forgot the like exact statistic, but then people also don't mention too that women attempt suicide 5 times more than men on average. And it's not that it's like a competition of like who's I should say unaliving because of the algorithm, but not that it's like a competition. It's just something that like just really struck me.
I say no, you're right, Lou, because I seen something like that on
yeah, that's true.
I seen somebody talking about that before, and that maps directly onto my own experience. So I'm gonna just talk about it because it's cool. It is what it is. I tried twice, straight up, and each time I tried, the thing that stopped me was my empathy for the people that would discover me. Because I said to myself, hold up, wait, like people gonna find me. And I don't want people to find me and have to deal with this and that and deal with this and that. That's what actually stopped me from doing it. It wasn't that I wanted to keep breathing, it's that I didn't want to inconvenience other people. So even in that moment where you're like, you're so despairing, right? You're taught to prioritize the emotions of other people. And it good or bad, whatever, however you feel about it, right? It maybe it accidentally keeps people from doing it, but there are more attempts, like Lewis says, there are more attempts than from people who aren't men. But the thing that stops us, at least one of the things that stops us, is like, damn, somebody gonna have to deal with my shit.
Yeah, and the aftermath of that is fucking awful, as well. Thank you for sharing that, by the way, Bellamy. But yeah, that is wild. Speaking from a public health perspective, the main reason why the suicide rate is higher for men is because of the ways the men decide to end their lives are more efficient, which is access to guns. The masculine urge to use a gun instead of pills or some shit like that. Like that is what it comes down to. Yeah. So I guess we'll just go into some last words. I guess I'll go first because this is my idea. I wanna again. I have a lot of, obviously we talked for, I've never had a live this long. Especially this late, like this bedtime, son. Or at least Madden time before I fall asleep.
He fixed it. I'm in my 40s.
Right. I'll be 41 this year. This ain't me. So, but I want to circle back to what I hope is not missed, in that this video wasn't about trashing Kidology explicitly. Like, this was not kind to Kidology. She will not enjoy watching this video, and I'm not going to try to like gaslight into thinking that this was a nice thing to do, right? Or this is a kind thing to do. I've seen these types of videos about me, and mostly they're shitty, but like I've seen my face on the screen, but me not there. It's not a fun experience, and so I want to send a empathy towards Kidology if and when she sees this, that it was not a malicious act to break down this video the way we did. It was because this video presents some very significant and important issues that we on the left do need to engage with. Not because, see, I've started laughing. I'm not gonna do that. Not because this was a challenging video argumentative wise, but because it illustrated the types of challenges that we need to get better at dealing with how far we are from just regular people who are still very much under hegemonic thought. And so of all the times I've did a reaction video, I was like, I gotta do this one, and it's gotta be out there for people to see, because we need to engage with why a person who considers himself a moderate would make a video like this that is inherently right-wing, and then not realize how right-leaning it is in so many of its politics. But I just want to be clear, I'm not gonna debate Kidology or have her come on my stream or anything like that, because I just don't see value in doing that. But Kidology, if you want to have a private conversation around this, I'll be open to it. I can't speak for anybody else.
I'm down.
But because, and I say that because I believe that you are genuine in how you feel and see this. And I wouldn't extend this to somebody who I thought was just doing some bullshit to try to antagonize leftists or trans people or black people. I think that's it. That's it for me.
Oh, yep. Well, yep.
You go down the line. Come on.
All right.
Holding up the function.
Any last words? At the end of this video, actually, Kidology just say that she hopes that this video would spark conversation and to build upon these ideas. So I do actually thank Kidology for, like, at least for me when I first saw the video, making me actually want to think through all these ideas and want to talk in community about them. So if doing these type of videos is about like promoting conversation, I think like it's a good video in that aspect.
Louis, you're next.
Oh, I have to say, wait, are we just doing an outro?
Just
last words.
Last words.
Last words.
Closing arguments.
Closing. I don't know if I have any closing thoughts. I guess I'm glad that we were able to get together and talk about this. Sometimes when I see this, like, it can feel like a bit isolating, where it's like, oh wow, like, is everyone else seeing this? So like being able to talk about it always feels nice to me. So I appreciate everyone being able to talk.
Mm-mm. All right, so me then. I mean, look, like, I laughed, I was indignant, but you said some shit that was worthy of laughing and being indignant, you know. But like Feek said, if you want to talk, we can talk. Like, it is what it is. I ain't like, I don't hate Kidology. If you're watching Kidology, I don't hate you. I'm disappointed, but I don't hate you. I am glad that you made this video because it did give us this to talk about. Like Tay said, it does matter that we're able to talk about this stuff. And some of the criticisms I think were pretty fair too. There was some stuff that she was right about, but for like at the end of the day, and this isn't the end all be all, right? Because it's people in particular groups, like it's Black folks that don't understand anti-Blackness or are anti-Black themselves, right? But generally speaking, a bigotry, whether it is a bigotry or not, is defined by the group of people that it impacts, right? She who feels it knows it. So if trans people are telling you that something's transphobic, don't default to defending yourself. This I'm not going to go too far about it because it's the next video. This is what the video is about that I wrote. Don't defend yourself. You're gonna have that urge. You will. Let that shit ride, and listen to what's being said to you, because there's growth to be happening there. You don't have to defend yourself. You can grow. It's a painful process the first couple of times you do it, but you get used to doing that shit. It becomes a lot easier, and you feel a lot better about yourself because you start listening to people, and you get a lot more friends because people start feeling safe around you. People start talking to you. So I don't know, like, don't get up there and try and like shout down trans people. I mean, not that I think she's necessarily trying to shout down, but don't get up there trying to shout down trans people. We're telling you something transphobic. Listen to us and ask why. And if somebody says no, they don't want to tell you why, ask the next person. Because you know what? Like Lewis said earlier, some of us is just tired. A lot of us is just tired. We might be too tired in that specific moment, and somebody else ain't going to be. So look for them voices and stop telling us what is and is not. Like, chill. You out of pocket.
Yeah. My worst fear is that she has to double down on the trans stuff, because that was clearly like to me the biggest, most prominent like part of this video was it's, you know, sublimated the left would win if y'all would stop talking about trans issues. Like that was the theme of the video. And so like I it's either a double down or a concession from my perspective, and we'll see what happens. And I have hope. We'll see. So,
I mean, it ain't gotta be public. You could just not say nothing and do that shit privately. That's an option.
That's also an option. So that's pretty much it, y'all. So this, I don't know. I guess I might just put this, like, just reload this in its entirety to the B-Sides channel, and just call it a day. And wherever we fucked up or made a mistake, hopefully give us grace. And please, especially those of you that's gonna come after us to try to talk about this, please do not know that if you come with some negative, wild shit about this woman, you do it in spite of every effort and every desire that at least we four here have.
I don't fuck with you if you do it.
Yeah, I don't fuck with you if you do it. if you want to talk about it. But like, if you know what the fuck I'm talking about, and how some of y'all get down when you want to make your shock videos and your reactions with this face, you know, like because there is no this is a ugly machine that we are involved in, and as soon as you start making content about people, those people stop being people. And had I not felt like this was such an important topic, I would not have done this, to be honest. But like it was kind of like I'm gonna have to compromise on this in the moment. But like, you know, don't quote me on your bullshit if you do some bullshit after this. But you know, it is what it is at this point. So all right, y'all.